Deaths, we are at 53,200. Recovered, 212,991. So we have active cases of 749,476. Closed cases of 2,666, 191. Now, closed cases means deaths plus
recovered.
Those who have recovered. Now, let's look at it by country. The U.S. is in a quite... I don't even know what to call it. They're quite in panic mode because now cases are at 245,000. Italy's gone up to 115,000. Spain close on its heels at 112,000. Germany still stable at 84,000. China still solid at 81,000. And around the world now, we still have just one African country without any infections. And we did see the increase in Kenya to 110 cases yesterday with the confirmed 22 cases. So the numbers are increasing. This is what we expected. This is what we were told was going to happen. We're in the week whereby it's going higher and higher. If you want to look specifically at the United States, and it's interesting because the epicenters have been shifting. Right? We saw Italy as the European epicenter. Now, the United States is the global epicenter of COVID-19. And still, really, they're trying to figure out what to do about this. And we saw that yesterday. There is an appeal, and they're basically begging people, unless and until you have difficulty breathing, please don't come to hospital. Really. Yeah. They are saying that even if you tested positive, you can start to control this at home because they're just not able to handle it right now.
Because the 600 and something active cases, are they all in hospital?
No. They wouldn't be able to handle it. 245,000 cases in the United States. Of those, we have the 6,000 deaths that we have talked about. But these 239,000 people are not all in hospital.
Yeah.
They're not.
I feel like governments have sort of been caught flat-footed here, but also failed to communicate the fact that you don't have to come to hospital, right? Even look at our case in the country. We are talking about people who have tested positive and therefore have been put in isolation, and isolation facility is hospital. If the message had been that if you catch it, this is what you ought to do, isolate yourself. Also, though,
and this is what isolate yourself means.
Isolate yourself means, and this is how you can manage yourself in that situation. Then maybe it would be,
You know where it gets tricky? If you listen to the messaging, it assumes that your residence has more than one room.
Yes.
For many Kenyans, the residence is one room.
Is one room.
One. Cooking is done outside. Toilet facilities are outside.
Yeah.
So that's where this issue of isolation now gets very, very tricky for them. And if you're talking about a lockdown, it gets even trickier because essentially you're saying don't move. I have 4 children. I have a spouse. I live in this room. We are supposed to stay here and not move. Gets tricky, but what you're saying is explain it and say, this is what we mean. When we say isolation, this is what we mean. When we say, if we're thinking of lockdown, this is what it will mean. This is what you can do, this is what you can't do. And it can't be the same thing for everyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
It has to be community-based, actually.
If someone lives, say, for instance, in a gated community, lockdown, they're just within the community. And most times they stay in that community anyway.
Yeah.
There's space for them to walk. There's space for them.
All you're saying is don't visit your neighbor.
Yes.
You can walk around, but don't visit your
and
neighbor.
If you're talking to your neighbor, keep a certain distance.
Keep a distance.
Yes.
Well, I think you're right. I think there's a lot of care. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but just from, I told you guys about, now a someone that I know who was tested positive, and she's been at home in Dallas, and she's using what she would normally use when she has a severe cold. And she's getting better.
So she's managing the symptoms.
She's talking to a medical.
So for a cough, you get something for the cough. If it's about
and that's what she has at home. I mean, she's yes, okay, just like Cici was saying, but in this case, she's at home alone. She lives by herself. However, she's treating herself and she's talking to other people who do have the virus as well.
Yeah.
And then speaking to her doctor on the phone every now and then. So she's not actually, except for the test having been done, she has not stepped into hospital.
The other fear, though, I'm sure for public health specialists, would be people overdosing themselves in medication. So if you tell people just stay at home, then you'll have other cases here where you have gotten this and then you know that I have a fever, so I'm getting something for the fever, I'm getting something for the headache, I'm getting something for the throat, for coughing. So you find people just overdoing everything.
Yeah.
Which could also be, it would make the case much worse than it is. So I think it's a catch-22. Important messaging should be that unless you need to come to a hospital, don't come to the hospital. But then, so what do I do?
That is the case. Just giving a little bit of history to some of these cases in the state of Georgia in the US, they actually, and so that we can understand this, they've linked the widespread cases through the city of Atlanta throughout the state to the fact that a funeral service, and we saw the same thing in Kenya, funeral service took place and there was one person who had symptoms and they did not disclose this to anyone. And that's how it spread to where now in the state of Georgia you have 1,000+ cases.
So how many people attended the funeral?
I don't know how many people
funeral
attended the
service.
funeral service.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So this one person is likely now to have passed it on, must have been the patient zero in that particular area.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
So that's how we see, just for us to understand, this is how this thing spreads. Yeah.
It is, but if you read or talk to people who are in healthcare and people who deal, whether it is with virology, people who are involved in producing vaccines, vaccinologists, if you're a public health officer, they'll tell you that the severity of any disease is usually determined by how many deaths it causes. Not how far it spreads. Because it can spread, people overcome it, it's okay.
Yeah.
They know how to do it, but the deaths. So if you were to project that, then you'd be talking about the projected number of deaths are these. Now, if you go by the deaths, they're not alarming. It's not that they are not serious. It's just they're not of concern.
Yeah.
I'm simply saying, factually speaking, they are not alarming. Even now, they're still not
Because
alarming.
it's still at 50,000 deaths
Yes,
globally.
Globally. Now, if you listened again to the messaging, every time you read the papers, the numbers who have the virus, who tested positive, take center stage, then deaths.
Yep.
It's only later that you say, those who have recovered are this number. Those who are still on a treatment. Whereas all this information, there is no information that is more important than the other.
This is true.
Because they all relate to each other. Now, this is something that we must actually protect our people against. Because if you give that skewed information, if you lean in that direction, then you're helping cause panic.
Yeah.
Because the narrative that enters people's head is death, and another one has died. Or another one is positive. We are 40. Hey, we are 40. How many people are sick with malaria on a daily basis in this country? How many people are still on ARVs in this country? How many people have dengue fever? How many people have been hit by cars? How many children have died simply because of the condition that many children tend to die of? These are constants that are also realities.
Yeah.
It's true.
And if you do the maths, believe me, the things that cause death normally still outstrips the number of deaths that are caused by COVID.
By COVID-19.
Yes, they are.
Well, still looking for behavior change, because if we're going to go into the headlines now, CS Mutahi Kagwe is still saying, and I quote, "Fellow Kenyans, I do not want to scare you. But with the figures I have just read to you, the number is likely to rise. It is important to note that this virus does not move by itself. It is moved by you and I. We must change our behavior and attitude if we have to cut the transmission of the virus. But as of now, I urge you to take extreme precautionary measures wherever you are by observing the highest standards of hygiene, social distancing, as well as any other measures the government has announced to you." It's interesting because just adjacent to that, we have a line of individuals who don't seem to be worried that they're not too far from each other, as the country recorded 2 more deaths and a spike in the number of confirmed coronavirus cases yesterday. Many Kenyans are going about their lives as if nothing had happened, defying advice to stay at home, keep social distance, and wash hands with water and soap or use sanitizer. And now officials have threatened even sterner measures to curb COVID-19 spread.
It's a big one. Before we go into the other headlines, CT, today's proverb.
Advice is a stranger. If he's welcome, he stays for the night. If not, he leaves the same day. This is a Malagasy saying. Let me repeat it. Advice is a stranger. If he is welcome, he stays for the night. If not, he leaves the same day. Food for thought.
Take the advice, or leave it. It goes.
If you,
but then he only stays for the night.
Well, meaning
doesn't move here.
There's an opportunity that he may stay for another night because they feel welcomed. You do start with, there's no situation where you're going to sleep 2 nights at the same time. It's one, then another, then another.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll come back to the headline on The Nation. The headline in the Standard is Why Doctors Are Afraid for Kenya. The Frontline. Exclusive interviews with doctors and nurses leading the war against the pandemic at Mbagathi Isolation Unit paint a grim picture for the country as COVID-19 cases shoot up by 29, bringing our total now to 110. And this is a story on page 2 done by Dr. Mercy Korir, talking about why the doctors are fearing. The doctors work on 12-hour shifts from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. The nurses, on the other hand, are working 8-hour shifts during the day, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and at night, they are doing 16 hours from 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. There was no adequate training to prepare them to handle this pandemic. Questions raised about their safety, that of the patients and the families that they go back home to. Yep.
Wow.
They're painting a grim picture. Basically, they're saying protective gear, they don't have personal space. The management team has never come here since it was opened. Only the head of the infectious disease department, Dr. Justin Atina, comes. This is at Mbagathi.
It just seems that, it's okay.
The building has no personal space for the patients, as would be expected of an isolation unit, like the 18-bed capacity TB isolation unit at the Kenyatta National Hospital. The rooms should have negative pressure that allows air in and not out to contain the virus, as per standards set in the TB isolation policy by the Ministry of Health. Negative pressure rooms, however, are capital and labor intensive. Maybe this building should be reviewed by the WHO and closed as an isolation facility, starting from workflow processes and demarcations for infection prevention and control. One of the officers is saying that. Okay.
Okay, this one is a tough one because it just seemed like, a facility was opened and then, in terms of the quality and making sure that certain things are in place, that was not paid much attention to.
Yep.
And it seems quite worrying. The last thing that you read there about questions are being raised about the safety of, medical workers, that of the patients and the families that they go back home to. I think that's an issue because they're not staying in the facility like the patients.
Yep.
They go home. And if they're not protected, it's very easy then to see a spread of this just by that alone, from them going home, coming back the next day. And if the conditions are not up to scratch, then there's a problem there.
It is a big problem. In fact, if you talk of any pandemic, you see right now, one of the things that people who are in the HIV and AIDS research world are mourning the death of Gita Ramji. She was a South African, worked in Durban, foremost researcher, HIV and TB. Now, if you work in that field, you also have a very high likelihood of actually contracting the virus.
Yeah.
If you work in a TB lab, for instance, or if you work in a place, the likelihood of contracting TB is also very high. Now, for the longest time, why people who worked in HIV and AIDS, as we called it then, were concerned is you're not sure whether the virus was airborne for the longest time.
Yeah.
And when you we're talking about droplets now, again, people were not sure.
Yeah.
Again, if a mosquito bit someone who's HIV positive and the mosquito bit you, these were uncertainties. Now, COVID has come with its own certainties. So sometimes, much as there is debate around it, this issue of wearing a mask, if it was made mandatory, it should not be an issue. You know why? Prevention is better than cure.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
Wearing a mask is not going to harm you. Just wear it.
Just wear it.
Wear it.
Yes.
There's
Again,
nothing like too much caution.
It can't be. You see, a positive note, the governor of Mombasa has made it clear that from next week, everyone will be wearing a mask.
Be expected to wear a
if
mask.
you ever travel to China,
everybody does.
Precisely. You know this mist you're seeing in the morning? If you go to a place like Guangzhou,
It's
middle of the day,
smog, and
It's like this.
interesting.
Middle of the day.
Their weather reports, it takes into consideration the smog factor.
Yep.
You know, it's gone
how
away now.
heavy it's
The
going to be.
particles, and then you know whether you stay indoors, what you do. There are
Smog
days when
factor. Smog. No,
there are
not.
days you're ordered to stay indoors
Indoors
just
because
because
it's
of.
too thick and too
Let's
low.
take a look at the weather, and the conversation continues. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Remember, you can download the Standard e-paper app from Google Play Store and Apple App Store. Just one subscription fee. You get to access the Standard wherever you are globally. Good morning. It's 18 minutes.
24/7 around the world.
It's a foggy Friday in Nairobi at 17 degrees, fog quite low, the chance of showers in the afternoon, and highs of 26 and lows of 16. In Nakuru at 14 degrees, it's partly cloudy. Those conditions continue through the day with highs of 27 and lows of 13. Taking a look then into Eldoret right now at 14 degrees, partly cloudy conditions. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 13. In Kisumu at 21 degrees, it's partly cloudy, highs of 30 and lows of 19. Malindi is at 28 degrees and light rain showers already this morning. Likely to be a full day of rain, 32 degrees the high and lows of 27. In Mombasa, 27 degrees is partly cloudy and expected to see rain showers there as well in the afternoon with highs of 32 and lows of 27. It's 25 degrees in Dar es Salaam and mostly cloudy. A chance of rain in the afternoon then with highs of 33 and lows of 24. In Kampala, 21 degrees. It's mostly cloudy as well, and it's likely to be a rainy day in Kampala this afternoon with highs of 27 and lows of 21. In Johannesburg at 10 degrees, it's clear skies, however, a bit of a chilly day, highs of 17 and lows of 10. In Lagos at 28 degrees today, partly cloudy conditions throughout with highs of 34 and lows of 27. Skipping up into the United States at 11 degrees, New York will be partly cloudy for most of the day. Showers expected later then with highs of 14 and lows of 7. London is at 9 degrees and partly cloudy. We'll see highs of 12 and lows of 4. And finally in Paris at 9 degrees, it's mostly cloudy, highs of 14 and lows of 4.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. Spice FM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
9 after 6 a.m. Good morning. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Situation Room right here on Spice FM, broadcasting in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, and Malindi, as well as worldwide on www.spicefm.co.ke. Catch our live stream on Facebook, Spice FM KE, on YouTube, Spice FM KE is a channel, and on Twitter at Spice FM KE. In the room, we have Eric Latif, CT Muga, and Nduoko. We're taking a look at the headlines this morning and what we have. Now, What we are seeing is a story here by Dr. Mercy Korir, Why Doctors Are Afraid for Kenya as Cases Shoot Up. This is on page 2 and 3 of the Standard. It's talking about the Mbagathi isolation unit that has only 6 doctors and 14 nurses who are working round the clock to manage this facility. 6 doctors and 14 nurses. The doctors are working 12-hour shifts, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And the nurses are working, those who are working on day shift, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., those working at night, 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. And they're saying, well, now, in the last 2 weeks of doing this on a daily basis, it's sort of getting into them. And they're saying, look, this is the premier isolation facility. If this is how the conditions are here, you can imagine how the conditions are in other parts of the country. We were not well prepared. We got patient zero. The president said this facility has got to be up and running. Not much had been done. Not much training had been done, had happened. Not much preparation had taken place. And so we just set off rolling. And if the rest of the country is not right now working on their isolation unit, we're going to have a problem.
Nairobi Hospital have come up with their isolation units.
Yep.
And they're talking about it, and they must be applauded. Because they have clearly, instead of saying we want to be involved, they are actually telling the country we are involved, and this is what we are doing. This is what we are doing. What I didn't get was, is it free?
Of course not.
Is Mbagathi free?
Yes.
Okay.
Mbagathi is free. The other private hospitals are not free. And I think there was some push for the private hospitals as well to look at how much they charge during this pandemic. Like review your fees, review your everything, so that basically you're able to take in as many people as possible at an affordable rate. Even if you're going to charge, let it be at an affordable rate. So Nairobi Hospital has said they're shutting down their satellite clinics, and all the staff working in those satellite clinics are now deployed to the main hospital, in Nairobi Hospital. This is one thing to yes, like you said, City, to applaud.
No, you have to applaud when an effort is made and it is clear what it is that they're planning to do and what they hope to achieve by it. You have to applaud it. Hongera kwao. But the cost.
The cost bit.
That has to be clear as well.
Yeah, the cost bit.
It has to be clear.
And the insurance.
I mean, upfront, clear. This is what it will cost you.
Yeah, insurance, it would be interesting to look at what the insurance then would be, because you have people who seek medical care throughout the year and they bank on their insurance to pay for this. So then they will be asking themselves the question, all right, this is a pandemic according to insurance providers. They don't take care of health when it comes to... Everybody is making... concessions now.
Yep.
Everybody's thinking about ways in which they can help out. Definitely insurance needs to probably give it a deeper think about how this is going to work.
You know, this deeper thing has to be deeper quick.
Yeah, real quick. Yeah.
Yes.
This would have happened by
Because
now.
more and more people, look, forbidding of doom, all right, but more and more people are going to get infected. And a lot of these people depend on medical insurance.
Even if they are not, you don't want to wait for it to happen and for the calamity to befall us. You want to have been prepared, for it, so that when it comes knocking, it finds you ready.
Yep.
That's how you defeat such a pandemic. But if you wait for it to come, you'll be chasing after it.
That's true.
And you will lose that run.
All right. 4 rogue officers suspended for vile assault during curfew. Mahue OCPD and Likia OCS among the interdicted as regional boss cracks the whip. 4 police officers who assaulted Kenyans as they enforced the curfew in Rift Valley have been interdicted. Rift Valley Regional Police Commander Marcus Ochola regretted that the officers went ahead to assault Kenyans even after being briefed properly. 4 officers who have been interdicted said they were all from Nakuru. We are not in the business of beating up people to protect them. Action has been taken against Likia OCS and Mauche OCPD, according to Mr. Ochola. Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembea said such actions would not be tolerated. I quote, "We don't send people to go and whip Kenyans, but we expect them to maintain law and order. We won't allow indiscipline in the service," he said. A victim of the Wednesday night assault, Mr. Moses Mavea, told the nation that he went to officers on patrol that about 10 officers on patrol pounced on him near Topton area in Nakuru town west at about 7:15 p.m.
7:15. Uko nje.
Why are you outside?
And
10
they-
of us whip you.
And they beat him like a snake.
They did. And left him to tell the story.
Okay, it's good action being taken to interdict them, but they should tell us the truth.
It is a good report.
Did they receive the orders? Did they not?
According to Mr. Ochola, they were briefed on what they were supposed to do.
And
Which
what
was?
brief was this?
They were supposed to maintain law and order.
How?
We won't allow indiscipline in the service. So according to him, what they meted out on this man, all 10 of them, was indiscipline.
Basically, they should have just used logic. Unless somebody is being overly unrealistic, just guide them on
Surely,
what
but
to do.
10 of you whipping him, I don't
Yeah.
think it was
They
necessary.
actually are, if you ask me, the one thing that our police receive very good training, even in managing. Remember, this is a civilian force. They are trained to manage civilians. It's not that they don't know. No.
So what happened?
Well, let me take a wild stab at this, all right? And you take your pick. What do you think somebody whose initial reaction to a situation is not to seek and to ask and to guide, but to beat? What do you think is wrong with this particular scenario? Because I believe that gentleman, that they're trained, they're told. But that put aside, do you think policemen are trained to ask for bribes? They're not. They learn it. There's nothing in their training that trains you and says, when you go out, this is how you seek a bribe.
So even
this is how you intimidate. I don't think they're trained in that.
So this matter also then of harassing people or, meting out upon them, all kinds of cruel and harsh punishments is learned.
It is learned.
It is.
It is learned.
But also it's intrinsic. Abuse of office and abuse of power.
Thank you.
Right? It comes in within you. Unless, and that's why you have a pecking order and you report to somebody and you're accountable for your actions. Unless you feel that you're completely accountable, then you will not think. The first thing that you think of is, nimepewa kiboko, and I've been told to go and deal with people. I am going, yes. We saw clips of police officers recording and saying, bado mko nje saa hii.
Okay.
We are coming.
Remember that lady
We are coming.
who was stopped by the police? The clip did the rounds.
Yes.
And the police were smiling at you. Ulipiga picha? Okay. Umepiga picha? Okay. Unashtaki polisi? Okay, that's how. Essentially, they're saying,
We deal with
we are a law unto
Yes,
ourselves.
unto ourselves.
And you think you are going to create an alternate universe. Okay.
tutakushughulikia.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's it.
Now, give this picture a perspective. Some of these delays that you're seeing in the government, and this one, you must exonerate the president completely. Not presidency. President. Okay? Because you don't expect him to go around dishing gloves to people or face masks. That's not his job.
Yeah.
Or to come and wash your hands.
No. That's not it. Or feet. Right now, there will be Kenyans who are thinking how they can profit from this whole thing.
Yeah.
Not just by bringing supplies. Kuna chakula. Okay. They need to be packaged. Okay. How much does that packaging cost? Okay. What can we make on top of this? Now, before they arrive at an agreement, that process is going to delay.
Yes.
The food is ready. Those who want to give it are ready. But because there's someone in government who wants to make money, the process is going to delay.
It's going to take forever.
Now, policemen know all these things. Remember, they are the drivers, they're the bodyguards of all the big shots. What do you think they don't see? And one of the things that you'll find with many of our top officials, they're insensitive. That fellow is going to be in that car the whole day and hasn't even drunk a bottle of water. Zero. And taking you from one meal to the other, to the other, to the other. The point is, what you're seeing with this caning, it's called impunity. This is manifestation. It's like, what do you think is going to happen? And when I say it's a report, I would like to know what the results of the punishment is talking about is, and the individuals, and we need to witness. Otherwise, as far as I'm concerned, they'll just transfer the person to some other place, and that'll be the end of it.
Interdiction for about a month. Hii kesi watu watulie kwanza, and then we come back.
Or better still, why don't you Since in this country you are innocent until proven guilty, even if there's a recording of it, why don't you ask these policemen to tell you what exactly happened? Okay, we've seen them beating up people. What happened? Why did you resort to this?
Yeah.
I dare say opportunity like this presents itself as an outlet for a lot of the inward aggression that they feel.
The frustrations
that they feel. So when you present them with something like curfew,
and then the power they have is multiplied.
I always refuse to excuse the behavior of police officers to everything else, frustration and all. Yes, it's they're just abusing their power just because they think that they can.
Impunity.
It's impunity. 27 minutes to 7 o'clock. The Situation Room continues. You can download the Standard e-paper app from Google Play Store and Apple App Store, or you can even have the Standard delivered right to your doorstep wherever you are. If you're in the Nairobi metropolitan area, if you're in the coast, in Mount Kenya, in Rift Valley, in Nyanza, shortly we'll be giving you the numbers to call so that you can ensure that the newspaper is delivered right to your doorstep. You want it coming weekly, every day. You want it to come once or twice or thrice. Well, I'll give you the numbers, the people to call and to talk to. 27 minutes to 7. Good morning.
Spice FM, Malindi. Online, mobile, and on radio. www.spiceradio.
Friday morning, just a few words of caution. It's going to be very low as concerns fog for at least the next 1 hour. Very low on Mombasa Road already, and people are being asked to, yes, use your lights, in this case your bright lights, because you will not be able to see very clearly. And it will affect traffic just a little bit, but not so much. A lot of the roads will be empty today. We're likely to see an outbound, quite some traffic around Westlands and on Thika Road. We'll give you more details about that shortly. Public transport available, being used, and you need to make sure that you are taking care of yourself if you're boarding any public service vehicle. All right, we'll let you know what it looks like on the outskirts of the city in just a short while, where we're likely to see more people traveling today. We'll let you know about that. Spice FM KE on Twitter, or give us a call on 0719 012 600.
Spice and everything nice. Alright, okay. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
There are some big winners and big losers in the fight against COVID. The big losers, they are covered in page 6 and 7 of the Standard. Airlines and travel agencies. Number 2, hotels. Number 3, dentists. Now, dentists, and you'd have forgotten about this. The social distance requirements has also sent most dentists home. As at 2018, there were 1,270 practicing dentists in Kenya. As you're aware, even when the virus is being detected, it is done through the mouth and the nose. So you can imagine the virus is more concentrated around those regions, according to Linus Ndegwa, the secretary of the Kenya Dental Association, who says, for this reason, we are saying that you should stop all routine dental procedures. So, can you imagine? All routine dental procedures stopped. That means dentists
Out of work.
Out of work for a while. Others who've been affected: pubs, nightclubs, and other entertainment spots. Clearly, export earnings from tea, coffee, and fresh produce and flowers. Sale of mitumba, public transport, sports, entertainment, and betting. The amount of money that the mitumba brought in. The amount brought in by the mitumba sector in 2018 after second-hand clothing imports went up to 177 tons was 17 billion shillings. Value of foreign investments into Kenya, 425 billion shillings. The estimated value of the gambling industry is 2 billion shillings. All those have been affected. The big winners are the e-commerce companies. Safaricom, of course, because of airtime and data.
Everybody's working from home.
And then also you're thinking of the others, the Jamii Telcom, the Zuku, Airtel, Telcom Kenya. Those ones are doing very well. And I've seen the balloons already in the country, right? Balloons already here. They're floating somewhere in the country. The others who are doing very, very well: file transfer companies, web application companies, voice over internet companies, streaming applications. All those are reaping the benefits of COVID.
A lot going on.
Yep.
All right. IPRA warns against raising LPG prices. We're going to see that LPG prices will fall soon, and this is the gas that you use in your home. As country battles the virus, dealers taking advantage of crisis to make a killing, just in line with that business that you looked at, Eric, about certain companies who are making the profits and those who have come to loss. Unscrupulous cooking gas dealers are taking advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic to increase refilling prices. Unlike other petroleum products, liquefied petroleum gas price is not controlled, hence open to manipulation, with concerns that players are now manipulating market forces to their advantage, even as international crude prices tumble. In Nairobi, there's a wide disparity in prices, with some outlets refilling the 13-kilo cylinder at 2,300, while others charge 2,050. The Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority is now investigating the matter after receiving complaints of some traders exploiting consumers in the wake of business disruptions caused by the pandemic. You can imagine everybody is in hoarding mode now, and then there are also the consumers who are on stock mode, whereby maybe I need to get an extra one. And if mine is finished, I need to find one. So how are you going to cook is the question. And now if the suppliers are making sure in one way or another that it's not available so that they can hike up the prices.
Are there any fines attached to this warning?
Right now, according to IPRA, they're just they're doing their investigations and finding out who is actually increasing the price.
What are they increasing it?
The problem is that they can't regulate. They're not able to regulate.
Why?
This is what it says. It's not controlled. The prices of LPG
it doesn't have to be controlled.
Are not controlled. So there can't be a set price that you can't go below or above this.
Look, when the curfew was announced, there was a lot of talk, there still is, about basic human rights, right? We are not in a normal state of affairs where everything is normal and all sorts of things. If there is a concerted effort being made by the citizenry and the government to combat this disease, those fellows in the LPG world also included. Now, all these productions are attached to some petroleum company. Now, surely, you're telling me that the government cannot enforce such a thing and say, if you're found doing this, we'll fine you this.
Well, here you go. Actually, the LPG regulations, and as I go further into this, prescribes a 50,000 shilling fine for selling cooking gas without a measure aimed at curbing, for selling cooking gas without, as a measure aimed at curbing illegal trading in cooking gas, among other malpractices. So
Without
that's
license.
without a license, essentially.
Because when it comes to price, really, the IPRA cannot penalize.
They can't, unfortunately,
because the price is not regulated.
It's not controlled.
Best they can do is they can advise that this is the price, the average price that we are seeing, and if somebody is selling, especially if they're doing unscrupulous business. You're selling a 14 kg LPG cylinder, and it's when they weigh it, they actually find that it's, let's say, not filled. It's 10 kg. That they can take action, because that is you're supposed to sell. If it's 15, you're supposed to sell at 15 kg. You're supposed to make sure that it's filled. So if you get those illegal filling facilities, they can curb on that. They can curb on whatever else, but they cannot really act on price.
Unfortunately,
so they can do all those other measures, which will ensure that only the proper licensed businesses are operating, and that will help. That will go a long way in fighting and ensuring that we have the best. Some good news coming out of Kajiado. The county government of Kajiado has waived taxes to cushion businesses from the impact of the coronavirus. The levies have been waived for the next 3 months. Speaking yesterday, Governor Joseph Olelenku said his government is aware of the economic effects of COVID-19. He says he made the decision after noting that many businesses are incurring huge losses while others have closed. Many workers continue to lose their livelihoods. So they have said, for Kajiado County, we've waived the levies for 3 months. They are not putting an big advert on the paper saying, remember, there's a 3% penalty, like another county that we know of, working with another authority that we know of. No, they have just said, look, we understand what's happening. And remember, Kajiado County, what are we talking about? You're talking about Ngong, Kiserian, Kitengela, Ongatarongai, Kajiado itself, going all the way, Mashuru, Oloitoktok. It's huge. So when the government says we are foregoing collection of revenue for 3 months.
It's a bold step, isn't it?
It's a very big step. It's a very big step.
It's a bold step. It's a very, very bold
looking
step.
at the kind of places where they collect their Kitengela alone is enough revenue for is good enough revenue. Kajiado town, Ngong and Rongai, big places. Doctors and experts are saying that it could take more than a year for you to rise from the ashes of the COVID-19.
It's going to take a while.
It's going to take a while. We'll be speaking with Dr. Gidenji Gitahi. He's the AMREF Health Africa Chief Executive Officer. We'll be speaking with him this morning because he has also said the same thing. This pandemic is not a short-term social disruption. It's going to take months before our lives go back to normal and start social gatherings. So he's basically saying what we are doing now, maintaining social distancing, ensuring that we wash our hands, reducing and minimizing our movements and interaction with fellow human beings. This is not just a 1 month or 3 weeks thing. It's going to take long. So prepare yourself. Do whatever you need to do to get your mind aligned to this, because this is a long haul story.
We're in it for the long haul. This is what he's saying. It will be interesting to hear then what aspects need to be taken into consideration to really hunker down on this.
Yep.
Okay, looking at other stories making headlines. Interpol-led operation nabs suspects in Africa. Operation Simba 2 has boosted frontline officers' ability to recognize a traveler as a potential terrorist. An operation led by the International Criminal Police Organization, Interpol, has led to the arrest of several international suspects in Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, the agency said in a statement Wednesday. Aiming to strengthen counter-terrorism, the Operation Simba 2 has boosted frontline officers' ability to recognize a traveler as a potential terrorist or criminal using Interpol's wide range of policing capabilities installed at air and land border crossings, according to the Interpol statement. From the 15th to the 22nd of March, Interpol's General Secretariat and Nairobi-based regional CT node for Eastern and Southern Africa coordinated action with police, immigration, customs, and CT units were able to detect criminals as they tried to cross borders, according to Interpol. So they're saying that almost 3 million checks were carried out and against Interpol databases over 8 days, resulting in the detection of men and women wanted for serious crimes. DRC authorities intercepted 5 Interpol wanted people attempting to cross their borders, including one suspect wanted in Europe for serious regional organized crime. So they seem to be getting their work done as far as that is concerned.
Doing the best they can. So in the UK, they have admitted they've made some mistakes, and now they're trying to correct those mistakes. So among the number 10 admits mistakes over testing as it sets a new target. They were not doing the testing very well. Now they've said we want to do 100,000 tests per day. Per day.
Who sorry? Okay.
The UK government want to do 100,000 tests per day. The Health Minister Hancock has pledged to hit target by the end of the month and say all NHS staff will be tested in an effort to fend off criticism of response to the crisis. So it's a big issue. That is a headline in many of the papers this morning coming out of the UK. The Daily Telegraph has that 100,000 tests a day promised as ministers seek end to a lockdown. The Daily Mail says, humbled into action, the health secretary promises 100,000 virus tests a day by May. Fine words, but the Mail warns, don't fail this test, minister. Basically saying, yeah, we hear you, yes, but we are a bit skeptical.
Yeah.
We are a bit. Please ensure that you don't get
Ensure
this
that
wrong.
this is actually done.
The Guardian says number 10 admits mistakes over testing as it sets a new target. Over in the USA Today, caregivers on the sidelines. Thousands of health workers across the nation face layoffs and furloughs as demand for routine service dries up. Right?
Right. Global football could change after virus chaos. Football has ground to a halt due to the coronavirus pandemic, and the immediate concern is the simple survival of many clubs because of the financial impact. Understanding that this is one sport that resonates throughout the world. But there is hope that the global game would ultimately emerge better from this crisis. According to Everton manager Carlo Ancelotti, he said, we're living through something none of us were used to and which will change us profoundly. And not just in sport, but, across the world. And we see that in other sectors, such as sport, that realization is coming through.
Yep.
That not since World War II has sport been forced to stop across Europe. The sudden interruption has exposed the deficiencies of a system intoxicated by huge sums of money. Sound familiar? Cutbacks are inevitable in the short term. TV money will go down, players and coaches will earn less, tickets will cost less because people will have less money. The economy will be different and so will football. Maybe it will actually be better and that people will fall in love with the game once again without the theatrics that it proposes. So everybody across sector, whether you're looking at government, whether you're looking at the economy, whatever it is that you're looking at, the way in which we go about doing things is going to change because of this. It's going to come for a very short period of time. When you look at what COVID has done in the last 3 months, it seems like an eternity. But a very short period of time then is what is necessary to bring about a lot of change across sector. So you see now that even the leaders in this sport are saying, you know what, maybe this is something that's going to come and bring about a change whereby the love of sport will take center stage as opposed to the commercial aspects of it.
Remember, you can get the Standard newspaper delivered right to your doorstep. This is the bold and factual newspaper. It's safe to touch. It's been approved. Well, it goes through proper hygienic testing and processes. If you are in Nairobi and the metropolitan region and you'd like the Standard newspaper delivered to you, you can call this number 0702 905 941. That's 0702 905 941. Anthony Mutunga will be on the other end of this line. He'll tell you how he can deliver this newspaper to you. If you're in Mount Kenya region or the coast, call 0702 905 780. That's 0702 905 780. Talk to Mr. Benson Getao and Rift Valley and Nyanza regions. The newspaper can be delivered to you. This will be organized by Mark Odhiambo, and reach him on 0776 756 107. 0776 756 107. It's 10 minutes to 7.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Well, yes, it's still 10 to 7. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. We're taking a look at the headlines this morning in the papers. What do you have, CT?
Fishermen's dilemma over curfew. Fishing is a nocturnal activity. When people fish, they actually tend to go out at night and come back in the morning. There's a bit of a dilemma here in the communities where fishing is...
The curfew is at night.
And curfew is at night.
And it ends in the morning.
Yes, exactly. So...
Right.
Yes, it's a dilemma that requires...
So this is fishermen across all regions?
Yes, right across. And they're saying...
Lake Victoria, the Indian Ocean, and the other lakes.
Naivasha, anywhere where we do any fishing. And they're saying that when the Minister for Interior listed what were considered essential services, this wasn't among them.
Should be included, basically. I think it should be included because, who is this that called yesterday and told us about this? They are organized. The fisher communities, they're organized. They can basically give the local administration their names and numbers and where they live and say, this is who we are. They can even get a special pass for the season.
For sure.
All that is required. Remember you're right, fishermen have what you call beach management units.
Yes.
They are an organized lot.
Yeah.
And everything that you're saying can be done with the greatest of ease.
And of course, people will ask you the question, then why can't they just fish during the day? Well, the thing is that fish are more docile at night. And that's why they go out to fish at that time, because they're likely to be more stationary and they can get more in a particular area at a particular point of at a certain time. So there's a reason why they fish at night.
Draw the similarity to the human beings.
Yeah.
At night, fish also tends to chill.
Exactly.
Yes, they don't go around being busy like we are.
Exactly.
In the daytime, when we're being busy, they're also busy. Yes.
Because now the aspect of light comes into play.
Exactly. And light really activates them.
So you catch them when they're asleep.
That's the general idea.
That's the general idea. That's why they do it. There's a reason. There's a science to this thing.
It's something that is clear. How many people steal in broad daylight? People steal at night.
Yeah.
And they steal in hours when you're likely to be sound asleep. Look, the activities that are known to be nocturnal activities.
Yeah.
Fishing is one of them. So this is something that needs to actually be considered. Yes. Now, there's something that this debate about testing, I will present this question to Dr. Gitai when you call him in. But I want to raise it now. Whenever you have a new disease such as this one here, a new infection such as this one,
yes,
there will be the initial production of tests or test kits. Now, there is no test kit that you will be told is 100% proof. There will be issues around it. And that is why, again, like in the case of HIV, there were confirmatory tests, meaning there's a test that was done, probably a second one, and then a third one. The third one was usually what you call a tiebreaker. Because if you have a confirmatory test, one is positive, one is negative, then you're not sure which is which. Then the story of what you call false positives comes into the discussion. So you have a third test now, by the way, which is a different test altogether, not similar to the first two. Now that's the tiebreaker. If the tiebreaker turns out to be negative, then the test is negative. If it's positive, then it's positive. But then you're asked again to come back after another period of time to be tested yet again to determine whether it was positive or negative.
Whether you still are.
Yes, no chances were being taken. This is a story that is beginning to gain traction with the conversation around COVID-19. And it's adding to it this. When numbers are spoken of the numbers of people dead, is there a clear distinction presented of people who die from other causes? Or is it just purely those who have manifested the existence of the COVID virus in their system? And even if there's a COVID virus in their system, there are many people who are COVID virus positive, but they're not dead, and neither are they likely to die.
Yeah.
So, is there distinguishing between what actually the cause of? Yes. So even when the numbers are being reported, are they being segregated to indicate?
When they say that this person had, pre-existing condition, what does that mean?
It means, for instance, like now, I'm hypertensive, right? It's a pre-existing condition. If I'm diabetic, pre-existing condition. If I'm HIV positive, it's a pre-existing condition, all right? So remember, this COVID-19, what we have seen so far and what brings about the complications that lead to death is a manifestation of upper respiratory diseases.
Yes.
So now, if you already had a predisposition towards it, probably because you're HIV positive, so the likelihood of you dying of that very thing is higher.
It's higher.
Yes, because it'll affect your breathing tracts and all the things that make it possible for you to actually take
operate normally.
Yes, exactly. Taking oxygen, operate normally. So that's what it does. It infects those areas. So if you're asking, the pre-existing condition simply predisposes you. It doesn't mean that it'll kill you, but it also doesn't mean that it's what has killed you. The pre-existing condition may actually kill you quite on its own. You may even be COVID virus positive, but it isn't as though that's what killed you. So, are you seeing
I'm getting what you're saying, and I'm seeing where the confusion is coming in as well.
Yes.
How would we tell this?
I think...
So conducting postmortems.
Yes, you conduct postmortems. That is the best way of doing it. But when you're clogged up with just treating people, postmortems take time.
True.
Do you think they're going to prioritize this?
But I'm also thinking, so yes, you may have had these other pre-existing conditions, but you've come to the hospital with COVID-19.
Yes, you have.
And you're having respiratory problems, you're having issues breathing.
Yes.
And then during that treatment, you pass on. What's the first thing that the doctors will think of?
It's COVID-19.
Right.
Yeah.
And it will have contributed to it. Again, I'm borrowing from HIV. They tell you HIV never killed anyone.
No.
It never did.
Most of the time, it was what they call the opportunistic infections that
That's
came
what
in.
Everything else.
Everything else. It's
and
not
that's
what
why
will
you
kill
have
you.
that, they look out for things like tuberculosis with people then who have HIV. The reason why they're easily susceptible to things like TB was because their immunity was already compromised.
Yep.
And that disease then could get into the lungs much easier. And that would be then what caused death because of the compromise of the immunity.
Be a good question to ask Dr. Gitahi when you speak to him
Yes.
this morning at about 8:15. Right? It'll be a very good question to speak to him about. As we look at how Kenya is ranking, Kenya is now ranking 13th in Africa in terms of confirmed cases. The top country in Africa is South Africa with 1,385 deaths. 50 people have recovered. Algeria, 61 people have recovered out of 847 confirmed cases. 58 people have died. I think this is the highest number of deaths in Africa. Algeria, 58.
You know what I was saying earlier on, Eric? When they say 58 have died from COVID-19 related illnesses, they should also say the other common cause of death in this country is this, and of this number has died. This perspective is important to create a balance. See? Because it's almost sounding that if you die,
it's COVID.
Yes, you just need to die and it's COVID. And that is not true. Other diseases that cause deaths didn't go on holiday.
But also, remember, this is not just looking at the people who have died in that period in that country. It's looking at the people who have died once they had been admitted to an isolation facility and undergoing treatment for COVID.
I agree completely, Eric. I'm simply
like
saying...
now, when we say Kenya has 3 deaths, it's not that those are the only 3 people who have died
No,
in the
of
country.
course not.
Eric, for purposes of communication, it is important for us to realize the importance of this COVID-19, the situation we're in and how dangerous it is. But we shouldn't sacrifice balance. This is a time to inform people that if you have a pre-existing condition, meaning this, if you don't do ABCD, you are not likely to die because of this. The possibility of your death is hurried forward because of this. Meaning, you need to be even more careful now than you were before.
To be more careful.
If you live in a place where people are always complaining of cholera and you don't take care of it now, because of COVID, you are now more likely to die because of this. There is a direct relationship between COVID-19 and what we already had before. And what else exists. That is what I'm saying.
Coming to the top of the hour, let's remind ourselves of today's proverb.
Advises a stranger. If he's welcomed, he stays for the night. If not, he leaves the same day. Or night.
Take my advice.
Yes. Listen to the advice. And against the background of a very basic understanding, nobody has a monopoly on wisdom.
Good. This is a situation on Kenya's biggest conversation. Remember, the live stream is up, Spice FM KE on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. Coming up to 7 o'clock, we've been taking a look at the headlines. You can download the Standard e-paper app from Google Play Store and Apple App Store. Just one subscription fee and you get to access all of the Standard Group's publications and the Standard especially daily from wherever you are around the world. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
All right, not much changed on the roads today. We do have a bit of traffic in Westlands, outbound, interestingly enough, of the city, and a little bit outbound on Thika Road as well, but likely to be that will close out in a short while. Coming off Mombasa Road, remember the fog is still quite low, so you're asking to be cautious as you're driving or applying that particular route so that you don't get into any trouble. You might not be able to see the vehicle right in front of you, so you might want to use your fog lights. Actually, not might want to use your fog lights so that you can be careful in that area. Not much concerning traffic around the city today. Mombasa also looks the same. Kisumu, if we're looking at that as a point of contact, and also Eldoret at this point. It's a sleepy town today. No traffic whatsoever. We'll see how it opens up as the morning ticks by, and we'll keep you informed. Spice FM KE is how you can reach us on Twitter. Let us know what you see. If there's an incident, accident that we should know about, let us know, and we'll spread the word.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
After 7 o'clock. Thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room. This is Spice FM 97.7 in Malindi, 102.5 in Kisumu, Nakuru 96.0, Eldoret 96.7, 87.9 in Mombasa, Nyeri 90.9, and Nairobi, of course, 94.4. We are live streaming. We always do this show 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on www.spicefm.co.ke. Call and share this link with all your friends wherever they are around the world. Also, we are live streaming on Facebook, Spice FM KE, on Twitter at Spice FM KE, and YouTube, Spice FM KE. We saw yesterday CS Mutahi Kagwe coming out and really appearing distraught. And he was saying, look, the day before yesterday, we announced that 2 more Kenyans had tested negative after having gone through treatment for COVID-19. Now they've come out of this, and these are the 2 Kenyans, and we paraded them, and they were speaking to them, and we even allowed them to hold media interviews, and we told them, okay, tell your story. And the idea for this was go and tell the story of how you went through COVID-19 and how you recovered, and the importance of you feeling the symptoms and immediately taking action to seek advice and to seek treatment. And this is why you've recovered. And that's what the story they were telling. So yes, given that the lady Brenda was telling stories, and from one interview to the next there was appear to have been some inconsistencies, Kenya latched onto that. And very many on digital platforms especially now went all ham on her and said, this girl is lying. This girl was just conducting a PR exercise. She's part of a PR exercise by the government. This government is just lying to us. There's no COVID, or there's no one who's recovered from COVID. They're just trying to get more money. It went all out. And if you went into social media yesterday, all social media platforms, including WhatsApp, the conversation being shared across is just about Brenda and Brian and how they were fake and how they've been planted, and even people going back to dig into their digital platforms and looking at their digital footprint, digging up pictures from 3 years ago. This is Brenda 3 years ago doing what with Brian, and this is the kind of life that they have. Went too much. It got to a point where, for all intents and purposes, for all descriptions that you can give, this is one pure simple thing: cyberbullying. These people, this young lady and young gentleman, have been subjected to cyberbullying, and it is wrong. And according to what even Mutahi Kagwe was saying yesterday, I'd like the law enforcement agencies to take action on the people who are propagating this cyberbullying. It's wrong.
The Minister for Health has an extremely valid point. In addition to the clearly and visibly positive approach he has towards this particular problem that we have, the daily notifications, the daily briefings, ensuring that people are informed on a daily basis and giving information in details, he also must be applauded, because this is excellent. While saying this, again, much as the COVID-19 has actually brought to the fore sights and sizes of the underbelly of our nation and of the citizenry that would perhaps be happy not seeing, this is yet another. Because why do people go hammer and tongs at someone? Look at the suggestion that the Ministry of Health lied to them about these people being positive.
Yep.
They're also going to probably say she never even traveled to London.
Yep.
Meaning everything that has happened is going to be put in the worst possible light possible. And they're not even offering an explanation or evidence to what they're saying. They're just saying it.
They're just saying it.
And it's getting crazier and crazier. You know, social media is a wonderful thing, and it's a wonderful platform for people to share ideas, for other people to express what they feel. It's a wonderful platform. But then there are some socially maladjusted elements within this country who are now taking advantage of this freedom that we have and abusing it.
I think we've abused it from the very beginning. From day one, when the CS said we have one confirmed case of COVID-19, people went up and posted pictures of people who are completely unrelated, and they said, this is the person who arrived from the UK, from the US via the UK, and they went to Kitale. They went via, I don't know, Nakuru, Eldoret to Kitale, and they came back and they've infected everybody along that route. Even posting a picture of somebody. That person had to record a video of herself with her family, her children and her husband saying, look guys,
sorry.
I am not in Bagathi. I am in my house. I have not tested positive for COVID. I do not have any symptoms for COVID-19. My picture is being circulated. I am not. Can you imagine that person, everybody who knows them, thinking, wait, oh my God. This.
And I was with this person.
Yeah,
and we sat and talked with this person.
Yeah,
we had a meal with this person.
And she shamelessly called me and asked me that we meet. And she knew that she has this.
Hey.
You know what it does?
Wrong person.
You know what it does, though? Then it exposes the mindset of quite a number of people.
Yeah.
Because by the time you go out and some of the things that we saw yesterday, I mean, this was beyond inference. People then making judgments on somebody that they don't even know.
You don't know them.
Right? And I shudder to think that in the light of something as serious as this, that is taking the country by storm. And I don't mean by storm in just the cases, but by storm in terms of it's toppling over everything that was known or that people were comfortable with in terms of how they operated, that you would want to then think that somebody would come up with a story for sensationalism. To get to that kind of thinking means that there's something fundamentally wrong, or that there's something fundamentally misadjusted in the thinking of people. To get to the point whereby, because the vitriol and the anger that we saw yesterday is really something for the books.
It's like people just sit back and they're happy.
They're happy
when
that something is going wrong.
They're happy when you go and discover a new photo.
She's lying.
She is with this guy. All right, so here, let's look at these dates. So on this date, she posted a photo from London and said that she's in London. In the interview, she said she was in the country on this date. And this date, Mutahi Kagwe told,
but you see
try to be
but look at what the end
investigators.
result is. Look at what the end result is. It's not really about London or wherever Ngataranga.
Or even
At the end
the
of the
government.
day, it is that this person was not positive for this disease.
That this person
and was
is a
never
liar.
sick, and this person is a liar.
In fact,
That was it at the end of the day.
the conversation
you
goes to the
discredit
person, not even the
everything.
government.
Exactly. You discredit everything that they were saying. And here we are trying to deal with COVID at the same time.
We do have an authority that deals with cybercrime, don't we?
yes,
Yeah.
the DCI,
The DCI.
has...
Let these people come up with the evidence, because this is nonsense of the highest possible order. How do you go around maligning someone with things which you know to be untrue? Again, it has been in our midst for a while. These fellows have been getting away with this nonsense for the longest time. It was just considered sport. They just people bantering, people exchanging.
They
Yes.
think it's not harmful in any
harmful.
way, shape, or form. People think, it's just me expressing myself on social media. You'd be surprised at the depth of influence that this brings. You put out a message. Messages that I've seen and groups that I've been on, just since this COVID thing has come to the point, people can say anything that they want to, and then you have to find yourself saying, you know what, guys, actually we shouldn't be spreading this kind of information. We shouldn't be talking about this kind of thing. What we should be talking about is what you know to be true, or what you've been told to do. That is what you should actually be talking about.
What you can verify.
What you can verify. If you have to have a question in your mind, then don't say it. In this case, you don't know this woman from Adam. You don't know who she was. You don't know where. You do not know the facts.
She's got a family, man. I mean,
You don't know the facts.
She has parents, she has siblings, she has friends.
So
and when you go ahead and start posting her pictures, very private pictures of her, and start saying, we don't even know whether they are real or they've been photoshopped and they're going around. Do you know what that is doing to her? First of all, she has gone through something that she was the first person in the country to go out and get tested and come out positive. She was being treated in an isolation facility that, according to the story by Dr. Mercy Korir today, is where doctors were not even prepared. They were dealing with her. She is the case study.
Yeah.
Right? She must have gone through something serious psychologically. She has gone through that. She has come out of it, and you take her back right there and you tell her, no, you're a liar. No, here you are. We are seeing pictures of you. We are seeing your digital footprint. You are so fake. You are not real. You are a plant.
But
of-
it goes
of the
even
governments.
further. It goes even further than to discredit the work that the government is then doing to try and stem this thing, right? Because essentially what you've said is that then there will be a poster child for a public relations campaign for the government, which I think is a bit, you want to be careful when you say things like that, especially with what we're facing. I listened to Mutahi Kagwe yesterday and I heard this appeal more so than anything that he's said in the last 3 weeks. Sounding a little bit more sincere than ever. This was something that was now coming from his heart. We heard him say previously that, guys, this is not a joke. This is the real McCoy. There's no take two. This is where we are. But yesterday, his words then were, I do not want to scare you, but with the figures I have just read to you, the number is likely to rise. He goes on to say something else, but then at the end of the day, he goes on to say, we must change our behavior and attitude if we want to cut the transmission of the virus. So with all that we saw on social media yesterday, do you know what we've done? We dissuaded people from looking at the matter at hand and gotten them to speak about things which, if you want to look at it critically, just really doesn't matter. Who cares where she lived, who she was? At the end of the day, she was patient zero, as it were, right? More and more people got infected as a result of that. She has recovered, right? Giving people hope on one end, letting people know that you can be healed from this thing, but then also shining light on the fact that, even with all these facilities that we see are not up to scratch, there's so many things being done, somebody can heal.
You can recover.
Right?
You can go home.
Yeah. And then to think that the government would pass out a message that was a lie over something as sensitive as this, I think we want to stay away from that kind of, because the potential that it has to cause damage is very high.
There are two things here. There's the mistrust of the government.
Which exists, we
Which
can't deny.
exists, right?
Yeah.
And which is being exhibited in all this from day one. No, they just wanted money from the World Bank. No, this is a person that they are lying to us about. This person is not even in isolation. To now here saying this is a PR gimmick and a PR exercise we're not going to follow. There's one. And then there's the other of attacking somebody that you don't know. Using a platform to attack somebody whom you don't know. Just because you feel that you have bile with the government, therefore you pick on this person. It's wrong. It's very wrong from where I sit. Think of that person as your sister or your daughter
Or your wife.
cousin or your wife, whoever. Can you just imagine if you are receiving all this on a daily basis, this barrage of pictures being unleashed, pictures being shared around, and you're saying that this person is a liar. Look at her. In fact, she is even of loose morals. Look at these pictures. It's really wrong.
That's malicious.
Completely malicious.
It's malicious.
And people who are doing that are passing on with the excuse of this is the government which is lying to us. That's why I'm doing this. Those two are not related.
It's one thing to call the government out on things which they haven't done, and you can point to them and say, you said this, but you haven't done this. That's one thing.
Yeah.
It's not insulting the government. It's simply pointing out truthful things about it. But by the same token, it's also incumbent upon us to say the things that we know the government is doing and which are correct and which are good. Now, if you use a lovely platform such as this one, which is a wonderful space within which the ideas can be shared, and your focus is to maliciously and vehemently attack this one individual, these two individuals, simply because you have a misguided idea of what you think are your rights. You don't have rights to go around insulting people.
You can never have such kind of rights.
You don't have such a right. You don't have a right to simply say things because they pop into your head and you feel that it is okay to say it no matter how crazy it sounds. You will be called upon to actually justify these things you're saying. And then you want to blame the government again. No. The government also acts to protect its citizens. And when people levy or when they bring out such attacks, you are actually not just attacking the individual. You're attacking a certain social fabric that we have in this country.
Yep.
You cannot allow this sort of malice to actually simply be spread wantonly without any check and balance. There has to be a check and balance.
There has to be. And even if you want to question, so yes, you pick out some inconsistencies in the stories being given, right? Pick out those inconsistencies. Deal with the inconsistencies themselves.
Check.
You told us this, and this is what you have told us again. Deal with that. But going out there to start saying this is what kind of person that she is.
How on earth does this come in?
What does it
How
relate?
do you know? Yeah.
16 minutes after 7. Let's take a look at the weather.
18 degrees in Nairobi and mostly cloudy for most parts of the day. Chances of showers in the afternoon with highs of 28 and lows of 16. Looking then into Nakuru at 15 degrees, it's partly cloudy throughout the day. Highs of 27 and lows of 13. It's 16 degrees in Nyeri. Showers expected in the afternoon, then with highs of 25 and lows of 15. It's 13 degrees in Eldoret and clear skies for most of the day with highs of 26 and lows of 13. Partly cloudy in Kisumu at 22 degrees with highs of 30 and lows of 19. It's 28 degrees in Malindi. Showers expected in the afternoon with highs of 32 and lows of 28. 27 degrees in Mombasa and showers expected in the afternoon with highs of 32 and lows of 27. And into East Africa, Dar es Salaam is mostly cloudy this morning at 26 degrees. Showers will come through, presenting a high of 33 and lows of 24. 21 degrees in Kampala and mostly cloudy. Don't expect showers in the afternoon then with highs of 27 and lows of 21. In Johannesburg at 10 degrees, it's clear skies for most of the day, going into cloudy conditions then with highs of 17 and lows of 10. In Lagos at 27 degrees, we have clear skies and then partly cloudy conditions to follow later on with highs of 34. Looking then into New York, it's cloudy conditions all through at 11 degrees. We'll see showers later in the day with highs of 12 and lows of 7. In London, it's cloudy conditions as well, and it's going to carry through most of the day with highs of 12 and lows of 4. And finally, in Paris, partly cloudy conditions at 9 degrees with highs of 14 and lows of 4.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
I'm also saddened to announce that we have lost an additional 2 patients who were tested positive to the disease. One in Nairobi and another in Mombasa. This now brings to 3 the number of deaths of those who have tested positive to the virus in the country. Out of the 662 samples, 29 people have tested positive to the coronavirus disease. Out of this number, 28 are Kenyans, while 1 is a Congolese. This now brings the total number of those who have tested positive for the disease in the country.
So there we go. We have a CS who comes on a daily basis, gives briefings and says these are the number of those that have tested positive. Human beings, 110 have tested positive and they are in isolation facilities. They are not somewhere hidden. They're in isolation facilities. Says these 3 have recovered. Here are 2 of them. And you're seeing the 2 of them. And then you start listening to the story of the lady and you're like, there are inconsistencies in her story. Oh, she does not know Brian. She knows Brian. Oh, she does not. So let's prove that she does. She knows Brian. And then this is a government that's lying. What's the relationship between, if you feel that the government is lying?
That's one story.
That's one story. Now, whether Brenda knows Brian or not, what's the story?
First of all, why is it your business?
Why is it your business? Whether Brenda has ever taken photos or not,
why is it your business?
Your business.
That's what I'm telling
and
you.
What
that
does it
people's
matter?
eye is always skewed towards the scandal. That's it. So now, look, by the time people were having this conversation, whether or not this woman, with this young lady Brenda, had COVID or not, flew out the window a long time ago.
Yep.
And now it became a scrutiny of her private life and who it was that she was hanging around with and where it was that she went or the things that she eventually did. The whole COVID agenda was aside.
Yep.
It was aside. So that, because I would have said to myself, okay, if you are making the connection between the fact that the government has presented this young lady and this young gentleman as two who had the virus and then were healed, and then you come and say that they were not in this place at this time, so they were not able, then it's not possible for them to have had the virus. Then we will say, okay, If the inconsistencies then were the same, they saw the common thread between what the government was saying and then also what this girl was saying, then I would say, okay, maybe there was a connection there. But the elements in which that are being brought in are two totally different things.
Different things.
Totally different things. You can't make you cannot come to...
It's about the girl's life and how she's been living her life.
You cannot come to a deductive conclusion that the government is then lying. Because she took a picture with somebody somewhere else. I mean, come on. How are we even connecting the two? So it's necessary for issues to be split here. You have an issue with her and how she took pictures with whomever. Go find her, deal with her there and say that you don't like it.
Right.
But then to connect the two and say, because she's lying, I even saw some people say she lied, so therefore the government may have said this is a perfect person to use so that they can push a particular PR agenda to let the people of Kenya know that things are different from actually
and
the way
divert
in which they
attention.
seem. What are we talking about here? Why would you want to accuse somebody of doing something like that? We're talking about a gravity of a situation here where people are actually dying.
Yes.
We're not talking about some monopoly game here that you can pack it up and put it in the cupboard later. This is life. It's happening to us today. So I think it's a bit dangerous when we go on those lines and say, okay, well, this is what it actually means. Because you know what? At the end of the day, people went to bed with that conclusion that the government is actually lying about this
Many
thing.
of them. If you look at social media platforms, I posted this and said, come on, guys, this is cyberbullying. And the kind of comments that I'm getting, she bullied us too by her inconsistency.
What?
Okay.
Somebody saying, why the hell did she allow herself to be part of a poorly thought of script?
By whom?
By the government.
Okay. All right.
Kenyans forget very fast, somebody says. You remember when a president was sworn in as the president of a whole republic in the night? How is that related to COVID? Do you remember when a church in Kiambaa was razed down with people who had sought refuge inside and nobody had paid a price for it? Kenyans were watching. Do you remember people ferrying money in notes in sacks from banks and proponents are now governors? Kenyans were watching. So all those things that have happened in the past. Do you remember Jubilee promises during the elections? The stadium, blah, 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 blah. Do you remember? So what is cybercrime? Impunity as manifested is a decayed, hypocritical and deceptive Kenyan society. How does that relate to Brenda? Did Brenda promise you a stadium? Did she swear in Kibaki?
Did she test herself?
Did she test her?
And then declare herself COVID-19 positive?
Do you think Brenda... So basically Brenda said, let me go and sit
Every
in this
ill that
isolation
this country has
facility.
faced since God knows
It's now
what,
gone
it's
to
Brenda.
It's now Brenda.
How?
It's now Brenda.
The things they raise, of course we know them. But this issue we have now has nothing to do with any of those things. That is a discussion that should be had, but it's a different discussion. This COVID-19 discussion is a different discussion. Now, when all these things happen and their favorite football team before COVID-19 was playing, did they stop watching? They didn't. Meaning they segmented and compartment their lives. This is football. This is me going to have a drink with my buddies.
This is me having a meal.
Yes, and this is me criticizing the government.
And this is Jubilee.
Yes, and this is Jubilee, and this is Tangata, this is BBI. All those things have their place.
Yeah.
Right now, we have a problem with COVID-19. Here's a young person who presented themselves. They were tested. They were positive. And now we're being told they have tested. They are fine.
But you know what this is? I'm telling you. Look at this. Because you can't have such a huge number of people going over this same thing and saying, you know what, if she could lie about this, if there were inconsistencies in their story, then in her story, then what else could she be lying about? Because then you want to open up the question and say, okay, could she then be lying about having had COVID?
Yeah.
Does the government want to come and tell us now that somebody, with all the mess up that they are having, which look, we have never been the ones to be shy about, where there's a mess up, we will say that there's a mess up, all right? Now they're saying with all the mess up that the government has had, how is it that somebody then can get this disease and then be healed?
And be healed.
Come on, what are we talking about here?
There's something you must understand about social media. I am not a social media person per se.
It's Erasmus.
Yes. But the one thing that I do know, and from what I have seen and what I get from time to time, the thing that it provides for is all sorts of crazies to come out of the woodworks and express whatever personal frustrations they have, because it's a platform where you can blame others continuously.
In fact, you know what? You can blame others for things that you as an individual would do.
Oh, it's a
Or what
reflection
you've
of
done.
Or what you have done.
But it's usually
So
a reflection
now,
of
it's
your
a
own
reflection
issues.
of yourself.
Your own issues.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
But you now transfer it a psychological process that is understood. You transfer it to the government. Easy target, government. And it's a huge target, so it's very difficult to miss. And there are so many things that go wrong with the government that you even forget that there are many things that actually go right. Because there are things that actually go right, and they consistently go right. So, when people want to actually feel that they are better, what you do is you blame others.
Yes.
You find fault with others. News for you, newsflash, you will not become better by blaming others.
And clearly, a separation of issues needs to take place.
It doesn't matter how dark you paint someone else, you are certainly not going to be brighter. You are exactly the same person you are when you started, and when you finish, you'll still be the same person. And that person, it will be talked about for a day, the second day, but the third day, this country, something else will be of importance, we'll be discussing.
We'll be discussing something else.
Yes. So, and if you think that is your way of getting your day in the sun, find something else.
It's about to rain soon.
I mean, someone is saying, I just wonder how we Kenyans are quick to critique the police for harassment, yet we are the ones, when given a chance, we can eat somebody alive. You talk about,
Valid
police, and then you get your own opportunity to beat somebody up. This is what you do. Oh, inconsistent stories. Oh, this is what she was telling us was a lie. Oh, this is a government ploy. Remember, the government has lied to us. And I go back to the very first day. We have our first case in the country of COVID-19, Friday the 13th of March. By that evening, this is because we are getting money. There's no such case. This is a lie, hakuna corona. And that message, started by people on social media in the city, had spread across the country. We had the CEC for health in Makueni the other day here, and he was telling us, when he's going around talking to people in the villages, old mamas are saying, Mheshimiwa Waziri, kuna corona. You people just wanted money. You got your money. Leave us alone. That is the belief that they got. They did not create that narrative. They received that narrative from people who sit and spread that kind of fear on social media platforms. And it's wrong. I mean, it's absolute nonsense. This is not where we ought to be as a society. Take a short break. Take a look at traffic. And when you come back, we can also open up the phone line so you can come and talk about this. If you believe that it's right for what has happened over social media platforms in terms of criticizing and critiquing what the government has said with regards to COVID-19, and especially with regards to the recovery of these two patients, Brian and Brenda, then let's hear from you. 7:30. Good morning.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. Online, mobile, and on radio.
So
Twitter.
They're not getting into any vehicles where there are no masks, unfortunately. Jogo Road, getting onto Mayanja Road. Mombasa Road, you don't have a mask, I'm not getting into the matatu. So, okay. How are you going to get to work? That's a totally different question. But all right. Making sure you're sanitizing, making sure that you are not getting into a vehicle that is already overpacked. In terms of traffic, not much happening on the roads today. It is a Friday. We have some movement outside of the city, outbound on Thika Road, outbound on Wayaki Way. We'll see how that looks like, but for now, it's really nothing to be worried about. You'll get where you're going in good time as it is. If you do If you do see something out of the ordinary, do let us know. Spice FM KE or 0719 012 600.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
So let's look at the doubts that have been raised and the kind of fighting that has happened on social media since Friday the 13th, when the first case was announced, right? So first of all, wrong person was said to be the one who is tested positive. And social media, guns for hire, took somebody's photo and they spread it on social media and said, this is the person who has tested positive. Secondly, they created a narrative and a route and an itinerary.
They already knew
They
where she was going.
said that she has arrived at JKIA, she went all the way to Kitale and came back and went to Rongai. So now, even when you're talking about Brenda, people are saying, but we knew that Brenda went to Kitale.
And it turns out to be a totally different person.
Oh, who said Brenda went to Kitale? You know, this is the kind of narrative that was created that weekend. From Friday the 13th, that weekend, there was a complete script of this is the person, this is where she went to, this is the people that she interacted with, and this is her picture. One.
Authority.
Second, money. Money was coming from the World Bank, and this is where the government has created this narrative so that they can eat this money. Right? Another narrative there created by social media keyboard warriors. Another narrative that was also created by social media keyboard warriors was that this whole issue of washing your hands and social distancing and locking down the country cannot work in a country like Kenya. Because look, how are the poor people who live on hand to mouth going to operate? That person who's talking like that is not considering themselves as a person who lives on hand to mouth or anything. They're just saying those other people cannot live on hand to mouth. You can't really lock down the country. This person can afford to stay indoors, but they're not staying indoors. What did we see? We saw people still going on to bars and clubs and nightclubs over the weekend.
Before they were shut down.
Before they were shut down. They were going all over, right? We saw people going outside the country, the county of Nairobi. Over the weekend, we saw pictures of very many young people who had congregated in Limuru. Parking by the roadside, over 40 vehicles parking by the roadside.
Having a party in the
Because
Tifa.
Nairobi has been shut down and no bars are working, this is where we're going to take our party. Mingling. Today's front page of The Nation is showing you people who are queuing very close to one another, thinking of social distancing. Nothing.
They're not.
Because they'll tell you we have to eat today anyway. So they cannot social distance. All these narratives are being created by the government. These people are lies. Oh, I've got a call on the line. Let's hear from this. This is Austin calling from Umoja. Good morning, Austin.
Morning, Situation Room. How are you guys doing?
We are well, thank you, Austin.
Yes. Interesting conversation that you're having this morning.
Yes.
And I'm glad to be part of it, at least, for a bit to share the other part of the common Mwananchi.
Karibu.
Because, of course, interesting views that you guys have, but I honestly believe any gaps that the government presents in any conversation, and I mean, of course, it's a good thing that we have people who have recovered from the coronavirus. Brenda and Brian, of course, are a story of hope. But I was just saying is, what Kenyans on social media rather were expressing is whenever there is a gap in a story that has been presented by the government of such an important, consequence, of course, Kenyans are not going to keep quiet. If you tell us that on this date, this lady was in Kenya, and probably through, social media posts, it clearly shows this lady was in another place, of course, questions will be raised. If this lady said she knew Brian, she didn't know Brian before, being in a hospital, and then there's evidence that probably, or there are photos that, show them together before the infection, clearly people are going to raise concerns. So what we are saying is, it is not, that people are doubting, it's not that it may not be true that these people had coronavirus and they got healed, but any holes in the story, any holes in the truth.
In whose story, though, Austin?
What the leader said.
So is it, are you poking holes in the lady's story or in the government story? Because you've got to separate those two.
And I understand. What we are saying is the government presented us with a lady who got healed.
Yes.
But the lady's story is not sort of checking out,
So does it take away from asking that question? Does it take away from the integrity of the fact that she was sick and that she got better? Which, if we look at it very clearly, is what the government was putting out.
Yes.
Does it take away from that?
The thing is, it does. It really does. If she is lying about meeting Brian, at what point did she know Brian? The question from a Kenyan point of view is, what else could she be lying about?
So they're saying that it's possible then that she was never sick in the first place.
We don't know that now, but the government has presented an opportunity for Kenyans to doubt. What the government needs to do is we just needed a watertight case.
Okay, in your opinion, what would have been watertight?
The lady should not have lied about whether she knew Brian or not, because that just.
How do we know she lied? What we read in the papers or what was reported? What if it was misreported?
then all this misinformation brings about the doubt.
No, that has nothing to do with that. That will be the media or somebody who wrote it presenting with something which may not add up. It may have nothing to do with her.
And the point is, Kenyans do not have the clear picture. And whenever people don't have a clear picture, that's where the doubt comes. Because I believe the truth is the truth.
Kenyans on social media, have they tackled social distancing that we see in the papers every day?
I cannot speak for everyone.
No. You can. You've actually put yourself in a position where you're speaking for other Kenyans. So I'm asking you, as a spokesman whom we have within us now, have these wonderful Kenyans on social media talked about social distancing?
Thank you very much, City, for giving me this post of spokesman. But obviously, I can't speak for everyone. Everyone is doing whatever they do. You know?
That's what I'm saying is we need to have a limit to hypocrisy, shall we? Because it is good to point out things which are wrong, then point everything. Don't pick on this young lady and let her be a center of conversation as though she is the ambassador for COVID-19. She was unwell. We are being told she is better. It's a good story. If you're going to poke holes into, as you say, her story, then poke holes into everything that's happening in this country with regards to the individuals in this country. People who are not wearing masks. The police who are beating people up.
People who are not standing 1 centimeter away from each other.
Yes, a matatu that's designated to carry 15 people and is carrying 30. Poke holes in everything and give it the same airtime.
I agree with you, CT, and that's what we are saying. As we even poke holes into Kenyans who of course, what she went through on social media, no one should support, the cyberbullying that she got. But what we're just saying, it was a situation that is presented. And even, as you guys are talking about this, let us also tell the government to present a watertight case.
Austin, this is the kind of thing that, police officers would say, this person walked right to us. So when we were just chapping this guy, it's because he walked to us.
He came.
So we simply decided to be democratic about
it. Yeah, it's the same thing that you're saying. Simply because this lady went and conducted 2 interviews, and in one interview she said one thing, and in the next interview you don't know what exactly happened to her. Maybe the nerves, maybe the mic fright and stage fright. Whatever happened, she said a different thing. Does not mean that you go ahead and bash her. You go ahead and start now going into her social media profiles and pulling out
hammer
photos.
And tongs, my goodness.
Because there's no look, if we're going to be honest, there is no connection really between her personal life and whomever she was with, whatever, and the fact that she was sick and got well. Because at the end of the day, if the government presented her as an individual here, it was clear that they wanted to inject some kind of hope. That was obvious from the very beginning, that they wanted to inject hope into society for them to understand that you can get this thing and be well. And in this fight, we have some wins, right? There's some wins that we can get out of this. And that was clear. However, because of the underlying issues that the society seems to have anyway, it could have been anything. It could have been anything. It could have been somebody presenting her baby and they would have said that baby was not well, and the story could have come out of it. My point is that there is a separation here that needs to occur. And there are certain things, it is a win here that somebody was unwell, she got better. And there is then hope for the other people who are unwell.
Her story notwithstanding. Austin, we thank you very much for calling. Asante sana, and have a good day in Umoja.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Austin.
Let's go to Karen. Peter is calling in from Karen. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning to you. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm fine, thank you. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the good work.
Asante Pia.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What do you think of the cyberbullying of Brenda?
Okay, for me, I like. Okay. I like to see maybe the government might have done some wrong in a way that my thinking is that if I could have not even produced the doctors who did the same thing, Kenyans, so that they can be able to at least celebrate the social media life, they can be able to celebrate the doctors behind the whole thing.
So celebrate the doctors as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
But another mistake is maybe if we can be able to at least for those ones, the victims, that is Brenda and Brian, they could have at least some of the guys maybe in the government could have given some guidelines on how best they can be able to showcase maybe how the disease came about.
So it's about management of the entire process for you.
Yeah, it is the management about the whole process.
Thank you, Peter. Francisca in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Ya, mimi nafurahia sana na hii channel yenu kwanza.
Tunafurahia sana kwa
watu wengi sana. Mimi napigia kutoka Mombasa. Na kuna vitu tatu tu, mimi sitaki hizo vitu zingine kama za social media nini. Mimi kujeni huku chini kwanza msikize watu wanaongeaje.
Tafadhali endelea.
Jana nilikuwa kwa Kaosh.
Yes.
Na kuambia kila mtu Mombasa hakuna mtu anaweza fikiria kuna kitu kama hiyo mnasema sijui COVID, sijui 20 ama COVID-19 whatever they are calling it, because why? Nakwambia Mombasa hakuna mtu ako na mask. Hakuna pahali kuna maji. Nakwambia pahali saa hii nimepaki hiyo gari yangu, watu hata wamepanga laini pale hivyo, wanachota maji, wanachikana wako 1 wakingojea hiyo maji pale hivyo. Na basi mkituambia tukae chini tukae kwa manyumba, watu watakula nini kusema ule ukweli ni? Kama hao watu walipatiwa pesa kweli wa supply Kenyans. These people have been having money since I was born in 1978. Uhuru hata kuona kama anasimamia watu wale walikuwa kisimamia na baba yake. Watu Kenya wamesoma. Watu Kenya wanaelewa, mpaka ule anachunga mbuzi pale hivyo anaelewa kile kitu mnaongea saa hii. Acha nikwambie, don't think you are talking to people who are not, wale waelewi. Watu wanaelewa na kuambia mpaka hapa hivi majengo niko Mombasa.
Kweli kabisa.
Kila mtu anaelewa.
Kweli kabisa. Francisca, umesema kuna mambo matatu.
Nimekwambia mambo matatu. Na ya kwanza ni maji. Huku kuna mitungi imekuwa na sijui ni kingi, sijui anawekea akiwa huko hivyo kwa amekuwa kwa quarantine huko Nairobi ama zimewekewa akiwa wapi yeye. Because moja naiona hapa Mtwapa, mimi ni wa Kilifi County. Sasa moja naiona hapa Mtwapa, nyingine nimeona pale hivyo majengo. But what about uko ndani? People need water all over. These people, they need to dig balls kila mahali, yani kila kawadi hivi kuwe na balls kama 3 hao watu wako na pesa nyingi sana za Wakenya. Hiyo ni mambo ya maji.
Jambo la pili,
kwa hivyo mimi nikiniambia kweli kama government inaangalia mambo ya hii ugonjwa isifikie watu through kuosha mikono, urongo. Mombasa kila mtu atakufa basi kesho. Because hapa hakuna maji. Hii maji ni ya chumvi na nyumba nyingi sana tunatumia maji ya chumvi. Hata hakuna ile mfereji. Ile mfereji ya county council haifanyi. Hakuna maji.
Francisca, kuna mtu ambaye hapati maji kwa siku?
Yes, actually wako. Na mimi nakwambia ukweli, mimi hata nakwambia
kuanzia asubuhi mpaka jioni huyo mtu hajapata maji kabisa, hajakunywa maji, hajafua, hajapika.
Haiwezekani hiyo. Haiwezekani juu atakufa kweli. Lakini nayo
kama amepata maji anaweza pata maji ya kunawa mkono.
Na kale kama maji kadogo anaenda kuchota pale hivyo ka shilingi 5 wewe na umemkataza kwenda kutafuta hiyo shilingi 5, hiyo ni mtu aenda akatafute pesa akuja akule na akuja anunue ile maji. Ukimfungia kweli atatoa wapi hiyo maji shilingi 5 kwenda kununua mtungi?
Francis, tuuliza hivi.
Basi kuongea kama tu mko kule hivyo kwa mfereji nyinyi. Njooni huku chini mashinani mfunge hizo mask, mkuje mtuangalie mtuone. Mimi ni mzazi mimi walai tena, na mimi sidanganyi kile nakwambia. Watu wa Kenya kunasemekana sijui hiyo ugonjwa ni kama inashikanishwa mchana peke yake. Unaweza ona mtu wa pikipiki, yani juu yeye pia anataka kujikinga. Ako na maski kamepata chafu. Na hana pesa zingine, na maski huko Mombasa zinauzwa 350. Sasa nyinyi jameni 350 ama 500 shilingi itatoka wapi nyinyi mkifungia watu hivi?
Tumesikia kwamba governor wa Mombasa amesema kwamba kutoka wiki ijayo masks zitakuwa available, ama amesema kwamba lazima watu wavae masks.
Okay, kama ni lazima na pesa ziko wapi za kuna, ama si watu supply na hizo ni vitu ndogo sana. Wacha niwaambieni wenzangu, they should supply. Kama kweli hii ugonjwa iko serious, ndio naona sasa hii kila Mkenya yote hayuko serious na hii mambo ya corona. Wacha nikwambie ukweli, starting with me mwenyewe.
So the problem is water.
Na mimi
the problem is water, my sister.
The water and money to go and buy food, because wacha nikwambie watu wanaamkanga asubuhi huku Mombasa. Tulizoeanga kutoka kitambo hakunanga kazi juu wakati wa tourism iliharibiwa. We don't have anything else to do here. We don't have many companies like in Nairobi. So many people are just struggling kwenda kuchukua michicha kule hivyo ndani kwa wakamba wengine wanalima na Wakikuyu wanakuja wanauzia watu hapa. Sasa yule mtu anatafuta pesa kidogo za watoto wake. Unaona? Kingine ni chakula. Wakiambia watu, wacha nikwambie. Sasa tuseme wanaambia watu sasa wakae kwa nyumba kabisa. Chakula they should supply people. Me, I have a sister of mine who is married by a Rwandese. Actually, they stay in the city. They are being supplied food hata sasa ukitaka mimi nitakurushia hiyo namba yake na jina lake. They are being supplied food every morning na by jeshi. Maserikali ya Kenya sote tu matumbo tu zinajaa tu juu ya kukula pesa peke yao. Let them come down here and supply food to Kenyans.
Kabisa.
Let them come down here and supply us with water. Let them come down here and give us the masks. Yes, nielewe vizuri. Mimi niko kwa gari hivi saa hii, ni vile mimi niko na upesa wangu kidogo, niko na tumaski tuwili tutatu kwa nyumba.
Yeah.
What about the other Kenyans whom I'm just seeing there here just passing me? Watu watagonjeka kama kweli kuna ugonjwa, lakini kama hakuna ugonjwa hao watu waachilie sisi watu wa Mombasa tufanyie kidogo yetu. Yule atakufa. Kwanza kuna kifo, kila mtu atakuja kufa. Nataka ujue hivyo. Mimi ni Muislamu, Mkristo.
Hebu nikuulize Francesca. Viongozi wenu kama ma MCA mkienda kwao mkiwauliza wanawaambia nini? Because wao wanaweza wakaongea na governor directly. Wanawaambia nini?
Hakuna mtu anapatia mtu hiyo time ya kuongea. Atakwambia tu tutaongea iliongelelewa kabla nazaliwa 1977 mpaka walio Kenya inaongeleanga vitu na vitu zinanyamaza. Wakenya hatusahau. Kuna mtu hapo hivi amesema Wakenya wanasahau, lakini Wakenya wanasaulishwa na mambo zingine. Kesho akijafanyika kingine kimefanyika kesho. Hiyo ndio kusaulisha watu, lakini Wakenya hatusahau. Ni vile tuko wanyonge wengi, hatuna kitu na tulimalizwa. Sasa ndio nataka kukwambia kama wale watu kweli. Sasa unaweza sikia Ruto anaongea kweli kama Kalonzo ama Raila ama Wetangula ama whoever they are calling themselves up there.
Or isolation.
Because they are so much isolated, they cannot even come near where we are because they think we are the ones who are creating this COVID whatever.
19.
Francisca, we hear you.
My dear bwana.
Dada, tumekusikia lakini
we hear you.
Na kuna Wakenya ambao pia wanatusikiza wamekusikia pia.
Nataka ujue hivi, huko Mombasa sisi tunataka tuachiliwe tufanye kazi. Kila mtu atakuja kufa huko duniani. Hakuna mtu ataishi milele bwana. Umenielewa lakini?
Sawa Francisca. Hatukubaliani. Mimi kwa upande wangu sikubaliani na wewe kabisa, lakini sawa, nimekusikia.
Wasikubaliana na mimi, lakini nakwambia jana nilikuwa kakao. Kila mtu anataka kutoka. Kila mtu nakwambia akifanya hivyo 2 more weeks. Watu Mombasa tunaingia kwa barabarani, sisi tunataka kufanya kazi, tukufia kwa barabara tukifanyia watoto wetu kazi.
Asante Francisca. Have a good day in Mombasa. 10 minutes to 8 o'clock. You can call in 0719012600. What do you have to say about what we've been discussing? Basically, just taking back the conversation to what we were discussing. We're discussing we'll talk about this is social protection, but also coming back to the issue of the cyberbullying on Brenda and Brian. Good morning.
Online, mobile, and on radio. Instagram at SpiceFMKE. Chilled Spice.
The situation room continues. 10 minutes to 8. Let's go back to the phone lines. Calling in from Nairobi, this is Mheshimiwa Grace. Good morning.
Morning, Larry. How are you?
Mimi niko salama kabisa. It's been a while.
Good morning, Mheshimiwa Grace. Where have you been?
Isolating.
It's isolation.
Isolation and isolation.
Right.
So I would want to say that the issue of Brenda and Brian.
Yes.
It started with a very noble idea that we needed to know that people get well from the coronavirus.
Absolutely.
And it was exciting and it was noble as it is. But somehow, the people who managed the whole story, I don't know what happened to them.
Why?
Because now, the way the message reached the Wananchi, it's like it was a joke. It was not something serious. And people started poking holes in everything. Going way beyond even moral, the way you treat somebody.
Yeah.
And I think it should have been that they needed to have been guided so that they say what they needed to say and just leave the rest.
So some sort of training on how to tell their story and how to package their story is what you feel should have happened.
Yeah, at least somebody needed to listen.
Yeah.
to the story and tell her, okay, this is what you say, this is what you say, the message to reach out if you go this way.
Yes.
But now,
better management of this whole story.
Yeah. Now nobody knows whether what the social media guys are saying is right, or what the girl said is right, or what how the minister even presented the whole thing was.
Yeah.
But somehow we are happy that at least there is a story of people who, and we'll see more. So many people will get well.
Unfortunately, Mheshimiwa Grace, what we're seeing here is that that is the point that, in the beginning, that was the point. But with all of this scandal and all of this talk and the vitriol and the rhetoric that has come out of all of this, is that element has been forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's very unfortunate,
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed, it's very unfortunate.
And the issue of Brenda, the issue of this lady from Mombasa now, when she says that the disease move at night alone, she needed to understand that the reason why there is a curfew is to curb crime, for instance. People do so many things under the cover of darkness, you never know. And when people are desperate, they can do desperate things.
Yeah.
So it is for our security and the management of it. It's not because it moves at night and sleeps during the day.
It doesn't even move. Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa.
Okay.
Let's go to Kajiado. Duncan is calling in from Kajiado. Good morning, Duncan.
Guys.
We're fine, thank you.
Now, I have 3 things to contribute, and the whole country is in the same dilemma because, like right now, I'm a landlord myself, and I have to pay my taxes, and I also have to pay my loans. The bank that I borrowed money from to build is still demanding that I have to pay.
Yeah.
Now, the government is telling us that people have do not have to pay the rent for the next 3 months. So what happens for the next 3 months for the common landlord like me, who struggled to build an apartment which is not even 8-story, like the likes of Ruto and the members of parliament. Yet I struggled to build that building, and the tenants will not pay me for the next
Duncan,
3 months.
To get this right, has the government at any point said that you should not pay rent?
No, there was an association, I think ilikuwa juzi, that said that they are pushing the landlord to request the tenants not to pay for the next 3 months. The tenants.
Actually, the story item, Duncan, was the Landlords Association, for which you should be a member, coming together and saying we'd like to work with our tenants so we can give them rent reprieve. But we'd like the government to do this.
I'm not in that association, and a number of people as well. When we met yesterday in Kitengela, they said of the same thing. Which landlord and tenant association is this?
Right.
So at this point, everybody and everyone is coming up and telling us stories.
So the point is, Duncan, that the government has not said that people should not pay rent.
Yes, but right now, every tenant has that notion that he's not supposed to pay the rent. That one has struggled. And in Kitengela, I'll be telling you, I'll tell you for a fact, Eric and your colleagues. In Kitengela, we don't have any fresh water. So, Juzi, my neighbor was attacked in China. And it's what is going to happen in this country, that if everybody is being not allowed to work, how are they going to contribute to their own families?
What would you rather? That there is absolutely no restriction of movement?
No, like usiku in Kitengela, it reaches at exactly 7:10.
Yep.
7:10 watu wanatandikwa huku bwana.
That's what I'm asking, Duncan. What would you rather? That there is no restriction at all?
My point is this. If the government is saying this thing is serious enough, why don't they do a full lockdown like in South Africa?
Okay.
Or in Rwanda, contribute food for the citizens so that they see it's a serious number. You can be releasing, let's say, 4 numbers or 7 numbers daily. We are not fools. You cannot just come up with a number. Every day on a release, unasema 10 people. Cash on 12 people. It doesn't make any sense. Just say we have 1,000 people who are infected so that Kenyans take it seriously.
Okay.
Duncan, thank you very much. Let me go to Justus in Mombasa. Good morning, Justus.
Good morning.
Good morning, Justus.
I'm listening to some of these conversations. Sometimes you feel like you need to accept it, that human complications and cleverness and idiots at times has no limit. Why am I saying this? First and foremost, I think everybody in his right mind should condemn what was happening to the young couple. They are not a couple, but a couple in the sense that they are two people. Yeah,
right.
It was completely unfair. But let me go back a little bit and remember what we used to be taught in school, that small minds discuss people, ordinary minds discuss events, and elevated minds like yours discuss issues. Now, through that case of those two young people, we need to shift the gear, and after condemning what is happening to them and calling the guys who are doing it all manner of things, and which they should be called fairly, and ask ourselves what exactly is the issue underlying this. First, let's go to the series of actions involving the corona and the COVID-19 and the release of these the couple and what they were supposed to communicate. First, we know there are people. There happen to be lucky people who are actually the face of the potential direction we wish corona, as we deal with corona, can take.
Justus, if you don't mind, Justus, I'd like to interrupt you a bit. I'd like to go to the top of the hour. We'd like to take a look at traffic, and then we can continue this conversation with you. If you just stay on the line, producer John will talk to you on how we're going to get back in touch with you.
No problem.
Asante sana, Justus. We're coming to the top of the hour. Today's proverb, remember, is... he said this proverb is from which country again?
It's a Malagasy
proverb. Advice is a stranger. If he is welcome, he stays for the night. If not, he leaves the same day. Advice is a stranger. If he's welcome, he stays for the night. If not, he leaves. Well, the conversation continues. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Call in 0719-012-600. We are seeing a lot of mistrust, misinformation spreading around. What is it that you've heard? What is it that you're feeling about this fight against COVID-19? Good morning, 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
Not much has changed on the roads. Thika Road now is absolutely clean. 7 minutes in and out from the CBD. Very, very fast. But you need to take it easy, guys. We know there's no traffic, but that doesn't mean you should get yourself into an accident situation. Getting into the CBD from all corners of the city will be very easy for you today. There'll be no hold-ups because there is no hold-up. Right, so if you see something that we should know about, please don't hesitate to let us know. Spice FM KE on Twitter is how you can get in touch with us, and we will try and make sure we keep it moving this Friday morning.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, newshound, a man who believes in punching up.
Is it there in the world or not? Is this thing real or not? Did we have a patient called Brenda? Did we have another one called Brian? Did they recover or not? Have we had 3 people who have passed away or not?
Well, did we have HIV or not? Was it Chira? Was it just some disease that only caught certain people? Or was it something that the government had? Or was it some huge conspiracy that the US had begun to? Was it? The truth is, look in the numbers. Look at the numbers. Look at the devastation. Look at the reality of it.
At this point,
are we pretending that people are not dying in Italy? Italy is too far away? Okay. Yeah. Is it true that people are dying in America? Is it true that people died in China?
It's far. We don't know.
In that case, is it true that people die from malaria?
Let's go back to Justus, who was on the line in Mombasa. Justus, you were making a point, and thank you very much for holding on.
Yeah, no problem. I was saying what happened was that there was an event where this couple who actually present the positive aspect of what our healthcare has been doing were presented. When you see what is happening and the doubts maybe some of those ill-informed Kenyans are raising, from a communication point of view, and I think City and team can agree on this, they are also questioning on how this was communicated.
Yep.
The question is, how was it framed? And in many cases, you realize medical issues and public health issues, sometimes you gain more credibility when such cases are presented by those who are seen to be authorities in this. For example, if you see how even President Trump presents those updates, he has this nice guy from, is he called Fauzi? Or Fauzi or something, who frames his presentation so that people subconsciously associate it with medical facts. Maybe so that in the event in future when they communicate such good news, they need to think about that framing. And I think you guys are more experts on this, on how it's framed. But on the bigger issue, to what is the issue this kind of Kenyans are raising? What is the issue here? The issue is that we need to do certain things to prevent the virus from spreading. The guys in social media, what they are raising, they're actually sowing kind of seeds against the main message. And this should be the focus of the discussions. Why is it that Kenyans, there are still bunches of Kenyans, and they're not illiterate. They are literate. The guys in social media, the social media warriors are not really literate. But what is it about them? Well, what is it about the messaging of this coronavirus that they're still going on with these conspiracies, this kind of joking about it? What is it? What is the issue? Maybe that's where we need to go and
what do you
explore
think?
What is the issue.
What do you think, Justus? What do you think? What's the issue? Why is it that so many people are, like we heard Francisca saying, just let us live our lives. We're all gonna die anyway.
Exactly. The first and foremost, I think we need to go back to the way Kenyans have been socialized as a nation. We have been socialized to expect lies from everybody. And therefore, to a certain extent, we also see our everyday lives as a series of lies. And the other thing, we have also been socialized to be not even risk takers. It's the fatalism. One can easily say there is a fatalistic attitude amongst us, but it's more about our relation with the risk. We have come to a point where we see risk ni kawaida tu, kitu ni risk. Kitu ni what an old friend of mine used to call it a manamba mentality, where you jump into a moving vehicle, and if you happen to scrape your knee, you say, I'm huyo jamani hero. You know that kind of approach. So it's the combination of that, our relationship with risk and our relationship with truth. And I think that's where maybe, again, I keep saying that maybe we need to have a more intimate interaction with Kenyans. Our sociologists and social scientists have kind of let us down a little bit. We need to have a bigger discussion.
One of them is here. He's heard you.
And he hears me. He keeps on talking about
how have social
HIV,
scientists let us
Move
down?
On. You keep talking about the same old story, HIV this, HIV that. Risks have moved. Improve the tools.
Allow me to explain something to you. When you want someone to understand something, you usually reference something that they're familiar with.
You have to draw parallels.
You have to draw parallels. And HIV is actually the one parallel that you can draw with ease.
Just as I was saying, you're stuck on that same narrative for HIV for 25 years.
At the moment,
where would you like me to get stuck, Justice, if I leave HIV? What examples would you prefer I gave?
Let me confess first, I'm one of you, right?
I see.
So, in a way, the thumb finger is pointing at me as I'm pointing at you.
Don't run away from my question. Please answer it.
No, I'm answering. I'm coming back, Mzee. Relax. What I'm saying is this. HIV has been a narrative around. There's a generation that has grown with it. And that is a generation which is most active on Twitter and on social media. The risk perception of HIV is not as high. But if you talked about even...
it's not as high as what exactly?
Sorry?
You say it's not as high. It's not as high as what? Compared to what?
A young person who is 18 years, his risk perception of HIV compared to pregnancy, for example. Studies have shown that. You must be knowing this. That young ladies who are more afraid of pregnancy than HIV. You know that? For sure.
Oh, that I know, but does it mean that they are then that they have immunity from actually acquiring the HIV virus?
You know, the city. In reality, people don't deal in absolutes. It's neither nor.
You're talking about social dynamics around pandemics or about diseases, okay? But again,
black and white.
All right. Let me ask the question again. What other narrative should we have then instead?
In the last 10 years, what has been the highest killer of young people in Kenya?
You tell me, what has been the highest killer of young people?
For the sake of not making the conversation longer, I know you know the answer. But the point I'm making...
We don't know.
We actually don't know the answer,
just as I don't know.
The point I'm making is this, that the tools of analysis and communication need to be improved to be current.
Okay?
And the risks which people face at the moment, whereas they can reflect well with the HIV narrative and other things, current young people are facing bigger risks from issues like drugs, right? No, when they can easily identify with that. Joblessness is a bigger risk to them. The loss of friends to accidents and all this is a bigger risk to them. They can identify with that. So it's easier. We can package this coronavirus in a way that resonates with them. But that's besides the point. Risk, is the way we perceive risk.
Justus, I want to thank you very much for the contribution this morning. Asante sana even for staying on the line.
Okay.
Have a good day in Mombasa. Let's go to Barry. Barry, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Well, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good.
Very good.
I'm actually listening to the conversation, and it's very interesting. Now, talking about the Brenda issue.
Yes.
There are two things here. One, I'm not a proponent of cyberbullying. For a young girl at the age of Brenda, it's something that is so difficult to overcome.
Yeah.
But again, I will not blame Kenyans on social media for having probably taken the approach that they took, which obviously I don't approve. But there are two things here. Some callers have alluded to how the government managed the whole issue. My thinking would have been, the government should have allowed Brenda to be a patient. So that Brenda presents herself as a patient, not as a government spokesman. So the moment Brenda comes before people and starts saying that, I'm a responsible Kenyan, the government was helpful, the antennas are raised immediately. So guys will start poking holes immediately because of the mistrust that they've had with the government.
Barry, is it possible that she decided to say this because that's what she felt?
Not really. I can tell you why. If you look closely through the interviews, there's a moment where she actually lost being a patient. She was actually speaking on behalf of the government. And the moment you do such things, and knowing so well the prevailing perception and the view of the government with the population, then you present yourself to be actually. Let me put it the other way around. People are not attacking Brenda. People are poking holes into the government, what they want to call a government narrative, which is very unfortunate. Because for one, you ask some three questions that I want to answer. One, is there corona in Kenya? Yes. Are people dying? Yes. But was Brenda sick? Most Kenyans will tell you no. Yes, they will tell you no. Why? Because of how the government presented this whole thing. I feel sorry for that girl, but one thing that must happen, that if you are to manage this virus, the government must improve the communication skills, especially to a very skeptical population who hardly believe whatever they do.
So the people already have a mistrust of the government.
There is an existing mistrust of the government, and the government can. Yes.
I do agree, but Bernard, I do agree. Barry, sorry, I do
Yes.
agree that communication can be packaged a lot better. I think from the very beginning of all this, we talked about
Yes.
the need for there to be succinct, clear, and consistent information being put out there.
Yes.
Now, whatever happens along the line, once you have this package of communication. And that's the thing about the science of communication. From the very beginning, once you have a package like that, it doesn't matter what comes along the line. There could have been a Brenda down the timeline. There could have been somebody else who comes. There could have been 110 cases. But you've already created this package. Everything else then would fit into it. So I do agree with you on that point. That if you had from the very beginning this box of clear, succinct, consistent information that was coming from one source, it really doesn't matter what comes along the line. It enters into that box. And that is what people are getting used to hearing. Now, unfortunately, because of where people have come from before with things that have happened with the government, which within this very room we've talked about consistently, people already are at that level where there's a deficit of trust, right? However, in a place where you can imagine the government is not coming from a position of total control, they're struggling with this as well, and that is clear. Now, if there was this clear package of communication from the beginning, a Brenda would have fit into it, 110 cases would have fit into it, deaths would have fit into it.
Francisca
would be more optimistic, for example. If that from the beginning was clear. And I do agree that the science of communication should have been applied to this very, very well. And there was a lapse there that should have been brokered. Unfortunately, it was not. However, at the end of the day here, where are we looking at? Then things must be really airy and salty. If somebody can present herself as having been a victim, as having been a patient, and then been healed, and it is so bad that the people of a country think it's a lie. And I think that's the issue that we should be looking at here.
And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because it defeats even all the measures. Now, guys are not asking. Like I tell you guys. The person I stay in Rongai. So I work in town. Now, whatever people are calling social distancing or what, to the normal man, it looks like disturbance. It's irritation.
Yeah.
They don't see the sense in whatever it's supposed to do. So how I wish that the government can understand the gravity of what we're dealing with, and probably even set up a team that's now supposed to communicate how grievous the corona situation is, and how yesterday in the update that the CS was giving, I think there was a point that guys were missing. Around 40 people, it was said, have contracted the virus, and they've never come into contact with a travel person.
Yep.
They've never been exposed. So it means probably this virus is all over, but we are just not aware.
Do you know Barry, the same thing happened in the United States, continental United States, where people were infected with this virus, never came into contact with somebody who had traveled, never left the continental US, but then presented with symptoms. Did we see this kind of uprising where people said, oh, well, then it means that the government is lying about this thing, or something like that came out of the blue? At the end of the day, people were infected and something needs to be done, right? We saw the same thing happen in other countries, but rather than deal with any kind of mistrust or distrust, it was taking a step then in taking a step forward and saying then that they have been infected. What is the next thing that we need to do? Treat them, let them get better, and then try and contain it. Do you see?
And maybe in conclusion,
yes,
I will say this. And Corona is here with us. The deaths are here with us. We don't know who is sick. We don't know who is unwell. And the government has the ability at times to force us to protect ourselves from our recklessness. Maybe the only option available for us, painful though, is a total shutdown so that we overcome this once and for all. Thank you, guys.
Asante sana, Barry. Have a good day.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
This conversation continues. Why is there so much mistrust in the government on this particular issue of COVID-19? What do people need to see? Like what Haikagwa said yesterday. If you're waiting to see somebody die so that you can believe, that person could be you.
There you go.
That person
And I
could
know-
as well just be you. Let's take a short break. 17 minutes after 8. We'll shortly be talking to Dr. Githinji Gitahi. He is the CEO of Amref Health Africa. We want to ask him all these questions. Why, for example, is it that people would react the way they are reacting to this particular issue? What should we be preparing ourselves for? And how long are we likely to be in this kind of situation? Good morning. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, sun peeking out through the clouds in most parts of Nairobi now at 18 degrees. We're going to see showers in the afternoon, however, with highs of 26 and lows of 16. In Nakuru, what we see now, it's partly cloudy conditions at 17 degrees, highs of 27 and lows of 13. 18 degrees and partly cloudy in Nyeri. Showers expected in the afternoon then with highs of 25 and lows of 15. Eldoret is mostly sunny today, 16 degrees and highs of 26 and lows of 13. In Kisumu, 22 degrees. Likely that it will be partly cloudy through the day, highs of 30 and lows of 19. It's 29 degrees and mostly cloudy in Malindi. Chances of showers in the afternoon then with highs of 32 and lows of 27. Taking a look then into Mombasa, where it's mostly cloudy at 28 degrees. The rains will come down in the afternoon, however, then with highs of 32 and lows of 27. Dar es Salaam at 27 degrees. We'll have showers in the afternoon. 33 degrees the high and lows of 24. Taking a look then into Kampala at 23 degrees. Showers expected in the afternoon with highs of 27 and lows of 22. In Johannesburg, it's light rain showers throughout the city at 10 degrees. Showers expected to continue through the day and into the weekend. Highs of 18 and lows of 10. We'll wrap it up in Lagos at 27 degrees. Clear skies today with highs of 35 and lows of 27.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
21 minutes after 8 o'clock. Good morning and thank you very much for tuning in to Spice FM. This is a Situation Room. It's the country's only talk show in the morning, full-on talk show in the morning. In the room, my name is Eric Latif. We have Ndu Oko, CT Muga, and joining us on the line now is Dr. Githinji Gitahi. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Amref Health Africa. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning, Eric, and good morning to your colleagues.
Good morning, Dr.
Good morning.
Now,
Yes.
Doc, asante sana for joining us. You've been, as all other medics right now, this is your peak season. You're all very busy looking at numbers, looking at how best to address this situation as a country.
That's true. It's been a very busy season, yeah.
And I saw that you released a statement just the other day and you were saying, Kenyans, brace yourselves. This is going to last at least 4 to 5 months.
Yeah, that is true. I actually, Eric, I actually posted it on my on my Twitter page as a thread.
Yep.
And then a clever Kenyan actually saw the statement, picked it up, put it into a post, added my photo, my title, and circulated. So I wish I could know who that was, because now it's gone viral. I'm getting it from Amsterdam, from China, from Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, everywhere. My tweet was just resting there peacefully until this guy put it onto this thing. And whoever it was, good job.
They've done quite well. So
Yeah.
explain, why are you saying that we need to look at it as a 5 months kind of issue?
I think this is really what I would say is a no-brainer. The issue is this, that if you look, let's just look at China, where this thing started.
Yep.
They started seeing this unknown disease in November last year. And they had a phase where they couldn't identify. They knew there were people getting pneumonia, they couldn't identify the cause, and people are dying. And then by December, they realized, yeah, this is a new virus, we have never seen this, and now that's when it came out to the world. That was December. Where is China now? China now is considering releasing or kind of relaxing the lockdown in Wuhan.
Yeah.
This is April, starting in December.
Yeah.
And the response of China was actually a mallet. It was heavy on resources, heavy on response. And even now they're still afraid that even after they relax the lockdown, the populations in China who may never have gotten exposed to this because of the success of the lockdown are likely to have a second wave.
Yeah.
So if you just look at China, we are talking already 4 months. So I do not see why then our people, across Africa, Kenya, would think that we have a shorter phase. Countries like Italy have been going on since January. This is April. So we are saying basically the measures we are taking will go on until the transmission starts to decline. If we have not even started the peak will start maybe May, June. Then you have another month to add to make sure all the things are tied up, you're sure the lockdown is working. So it's basically minimum 4 months, 5 months of these social interruptions. It's a no-brainer. It's just looking at what other countries have done, where we are, the progression of every country. Brace yourselves for 4 months.
For the long haul.
Daktari, I'm going to ask you then, with what you're saying now and what we've heard, just from the last 20 minutes, let's not even talk about 1 week. There are people who don't believe this thing is here. How are we then going to tell them to hunker down for the next 4-5 months when there's some people who believe this thing doesn't exist, or that there's a cure for it that you can get at 2 a.m. in the morning? How are we going to pass on this message?
It's going to be tough. I think, you see, populations are cynical not because they want to be. Communities are not cynical for the sake of it. They're cynical, number one, is because there's a trust gap between their government, the communities and their government. There's a trust gap. And that trust gap is not purely on COVID-19. We've seen this kind of cynicism for several years now, where the government says we've done, these guys are like, you did not do it. So it's not new. It really is not new. And but remember also that if you talk about a typical Kenyan living their lives, maybe, a huge percentage live below $2 a day. They earn day to day, and they're feeding their families. They have other priorities. Their priorities are, how am I children going to feed? My child does not have universal coverage, and therefore they are sick. What do I do? How do I pay for it? I don't have money to pay the loan I borrowed on my mobile phone. So these are the bigger priorities, and they are lively. They are alive. They can see them. They can feel them. This is a thing which is being talked about on media, which doesn't have a face.
Yeah.
Actually, somebody the other day defined COVID-19 as a ghost.
Right.
It doesn't have a face. You can't show a poster child. You can't show a poster person and say, this is how it looks.
Yeah.
So how then do the disconnect is real.
How do people resonate?
How people resonate. And to your question about, therefore, what do we do? It's going to take time for people to start seeing the effects. The first effects they're going to see are the economic effects. We have seen people losing their jobs. We've seen businesses closing. We are going to see more numbers coming up. People will never see those faces. Even when we get 10,000, people will not see the faces. People see Brenda and they're like, no, you didn't have COVID-19. You look so healthy. Why you like to us?
This is the thing. But with other pandemics that we saw, Daktari, if I can just go before and to ask another question here, is that look at most recently Ebola, we could see somebody suffered from Ebola, it resulted 50% in death. And we could see what happened to a person's body ravaged by this disease. We looked at HIV that we've dealt with and still continue to deal with, where 36 million people around the world lost their lives. And then you could see on someone's body if they suffered from this disease for some time. So I can understand what you're saying here in the sense that people have not been able to reconcile with this thing that doesn't look a certain type of way. And we're likely to see the results from other sectors, other factors, before we understand how bad this thing really is.
Yeah. So let me come to that, and this is the real. What you're raising is the crux of the matter. Coronavirus infects you. When it infects you, 80% of the people, 8 out of 10, will have very mild symptoms. It will be like you had a flu passing and it goes away.
Yeah.
And that's the majority. The challenge is that you may have another 2 out of 10 who need hospital care and they need ICU beds. So why is there so much noise about coronavirus? The rate of transmission is so rapid that actually you worry about the 2 out of 10, not about the 8 out of 10. Okay? Now, imagine, somebody yesterday described to me and said, imagine if there was rain that came, all of it came over 2 days and flooded the entire town.
Yep.
Cars were floating and houses were floating. Imagine the same rain, but you spread it over 2 months, and therefore it's just showers over 2 months. Which of the two will have the most drastic event? It's the one that comes over 2 days.
Yes.
Okay? So the question about this coronavirus is, how do we stop the rising numbers so that we stop the 2 out of 10 from needing hospital care? This is why the noise around it. Ideally, the 8 out of 10, you'll not even know they will have mild symptoms and they'll move on. But the challenge is, if you do not identify them and isolate them out of the community so that you allow slow transmission, then it means you have many of the 2 out of 10, and therefore your health system gets overwhelmed.
Right.
That's where the issue is. It's not the 8. It is the 2 and the capacity to deal. If the 2 is multiplied by 10, by 100, by 1,000, then what is your capacity to deal with those numbers? That's really the issue.
Also, Dr. you mentioned the peak. We haven't reached the peak yet.
No.
How would the peak look like?
The peak in terms of infected people is going to look like thousands of people. There are many different projections. We have projections showing, and I think even the Minister of Health talked about this, by April, May, we are likely to see 10,000. My estimate is that we may hit 10,000 by mid-May. Now, and then that doesn't mean that that's the peak. That just means that that is the acceleration phase. So we probably will have 20,000, 30, 40, 50 going up. Now, how will it look like? We are not going to have 50,000 sick people in the hospital.
In the hospital, yeah.
We will only have, maybe we'll have 1,000 sick people in the hospitals who need care. Out of those, another, 500 or so more will require ICU beds, okay? So what are we likely to see? We're likely to see many people requiring ICU beds, maybe double the number we already have, because we already have people requiring ICU beds. So maybe double or triple the number of the people we have, and we'll need hospital beds because maybe we'll have triple the number of beds we have. But these other people we don't see in the hospital, what are we likely to see out of them? We are likely to see massive isolation centers to get these infected people out of the community to stop the spread. So you're likely to see schools, universities, stadiums stand in isolation centers for healthy people, but with positive coronavirus tests, who are then put there to stop the spread to other people. That's what you're likely to see. Of course, then you'll see massive disruption of the economy, because to stop the transmission, you have to stop public services, you have to stop people going to public places. So we'll also see this curfew extending and maybe seeing more and more disruption of people's daily lives.
This picture that you have painted, is it despite the efforts we are making? Is it in spite of the efforts we are making? Is it something that we can put a halt to? If we can project clearly and see what can happen, what is this thing that we can do so that this disastrous looking and sounding outcome doesn't become a reality?
So what can we do? I would say that the picture I'm painting is in spite of, okay? And the magnitude of that picture, the size of that picture, whether it's a small portrait or a big wall hanging, depends on the things we do now. The things we do now will mean that we need to test. Our capacity for testing is still not where it should be. And it's not because of failure of government. It's just because globally the test kits have a major supply issue. They are not available. So, but we have seen yesterday, I think the minister said we probably tested the highest number in a day, 700, 600 and something. Now we need to test 5,000. We need to test 5,000 in a day. So we need to get there, because the more you test, then the more you can isolate the sick and then reduce the peak. Okay? So if we're able to increase our testing capacity rapidly, we then identify the sick people, the people who are positive, put them away, and therefore reduce the rate of transmission. That's number one. The second thing is ourselves, the public. If we can actually take the measures, we advise work from home. If you can work from home, as we know majority of Kenyans cannot, because if you're a mason on a construction site, you can't work from home. You have to go to the site and actually do the work you do every day. Then it means that there are measures you can take. The government hasn't done a lockdown because the government is worried of those people. Therefore, we are saying, then wear a mask when you're in a place where there are many people. If you're in a matatu, wear a mask. When you get to the construction site and you're meeting many people, wear a mask. The rest of the time, maybe you may decide not to have a mask if you're with your family or you're around, an environment where there are not too many people. Then wash your hands consistently. Don't shake hands, because when you shake hands, then you increase your chance of transmission. So if you take these measures, then we could see that this picture could be better. Not that we'll eliminate it completely, but we'll slow down the rate of spread, the rate of infection.
But also still looking at the issue of isolating people. Everybody who tests positive is then removed from the community and being isolated. It also still paints a grim picture, because we're talking about removing people from where they live and taking them into some boarding school somewhere, and they're living in dormitories. Must we do this? Can we just not tell people, all right, so you are infected, you've tested positive, let's see, are your family members positive? Maybe they are, maybe they are not. Just leave, don't leave the house.
Now, this is a very important and controversial issue. Many countries have attempted to do so, to say, fine, you are positive, please isolate yourself from home. Now, Italy, which is I would say that it has a more formalized society, where houses have addresses, where roads reach every house. They attempted that, and they had one of the worst, what we call cluster infections. I think maybe a bit more than 50% of all infections are family related. Okay, this is because even when you tell people to isolate, there is no 100% separation. People even stay in their room, but there will still be somebody giving them food in a plate, and that plate then comes back, and therefore you end up with family members getting infected. Then you have to now deal with the entire family. Remember that also within this same family, there are different demographics. There are people who are elder. People in Kenya live in families where the mother lives with their daughter and then lives with their children. So you are exposing more and more elderly people when you do that. So there is evidence that home isolation is not the best way to go. That actually isolation out of the community is the best way to go. Of course, it's a disruption. It is not fun to be away from your family for 14 days, but that's the only way to reduce the transmission. It is the way to reduce the transmission.
Let me ask this question. If we go by statistics that we've seen in the public domain, the vast majority of the people in this country are in the informal sector. And the dwelling places they have essentially is one room. Now, you've talked about accelerating testing. Yet, again, in that same public domain, we have issues with test kits, because there is a debate as to whether these test kits test accurately or whether the confirmatory tests also tests accurately. So, if we're going to talk about testing and we're going to talk about the numbers, this debate and the issues that arise, should they not be settled so that when people talk about testing, they are certain that the results of those testings are absolutely conclusive?
Now, my point is, my view is this, that people should not worry about whether there is sensitivity, whether there is false negatives, false positives. They should leave the public health specialists to worry about that. Because then,
if someone has COVID and the testing is not certain, they should leave the worry to the health specialists.
The test, when you're told the test is positive, what I'm saying is believe it's positive. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Don't worry about, are you sure? And what's going on is that many of the cases, when we do these tests, you also do what we call controls. So in a percentage of the people, you test twice. In a random sample of people, you test twice. So that you see whether you actually missed maybe it was a false negative, and you'll be able to track that. So there is already, if you look at the numbers, you're looking at the US, numbers you're looking at Italy, they're the same test kits that are being used. It's not like Kenya has different test kits from Italy, from China, from the US. They are the same test kits. Even now, we are just importing kits from the US coming this week. We've received kits from Africa CDC. So the test kits are not like Kenya has doubtful test kits. They are global test kits.
It's not the Kenyan test kits. In fact, the issues around test kits have come from the very countries that these test kits are coming from.
Because in every scientific process, there will be research that shows, yes, there could have been percentage of this and that, this could have occurred. That doesn't mean that the majority of the test kits are going to be doubtful. It just means that science is continuously looking at increasing specificity. Even when you'd say, by the way, I'll give you antibiotics because you have pneumonia, I cannot guarantee you 100% that antibiotic will work on you. I may have to change it after some time. So that's how, medicine is not, what would I say, it's not an accurate science. And neither is physics or chemistry. So we say that, for example, when I treat you for pneumonia, when I treat you for diarrhea, I'll give you these drugs. Chances are 90% chance you will heal. But there are many people who will go back and say, no, this medicine failed because you had a high resistance rate. We are therefore changing the antibiotic.
Dr. You do have a valid point, and I agree with you. But the practice of medicine as a layman, I think, is based on empiricity. So it means it's something you can prove and something that is viable. But let me leave that aside. I think the work that you're doing is excellent. But what I'm actually asking is there a body of adequate communication that is actually being prepared if it isn't ready, that will deal with these issues? Because everything you've discussed is true, it is real, but if the communication is not accurate, it will not only fall on deaf ears, but all the efforts that we're speaking about will not amount to much good.
I hear you. So there's a lot of communication that is going to go out. My advice to the public is leave science to the scientists and just obey whatever has been proven to work.
Yep.
And what has been proven to work is what we are going to communicate. That hand washing works because this virus lands on surfaces. People then touch it with their face and then they put it on their mouth or their nose and they get sick. So that's proven. So follow those instructions. Cough, hygiene, it's been proven. Now, there are still debates about, for example, about masks. Should you use masks or not?
Yep.
Remember that this virus is new. It is basically 5 months. So do we have all the empirical evidence around this virus?
No,
we don't. We don't. And that's what we have to realize. So when people question whether we have full evidence on this, then you realize the virus of 4 months, we don't even have a vaccine. Then we have to work with what we have. You have to work with what we have to save the people from the troubles that could face them. And that's what we are working with.
And that's that is where the communication comes in. Also, the things that you and I are saying, the things that you are saying now, it has to be understood that there's a work in progress. I mean, clearly understood. Because By everybody. Remember, if you're talking to a Kenyan, if a doctor says something, they're likely to believe everything you tell them.
Yes.
You say it, they believe you. Now, getting them to understand this is important, because with a new situation such as this one here, the myths and misconceptions, if not brought down, will take center stage. And then now, you'll be fighting it. Instead of communicating your message, you'll be busy fighting the myths and misconceptions. Like right now, if you're to talk to communities around the country, you'll be amazed at the myths and misconceptions that have taken center stage with the issue of coronavirus. And that's what people are going by.
I agree with you 100%. I have had people saying garlic works. I've had people saying there's a new traditional medicine from Ethiopia. I've had, all these things. I totally agree with you. What you're saying is communication needs to be done. And I totally agree we could have done better. The government should do better. We are seeing now that people like yourselves are talking about it. This is, you're playing a role. By talking to your audiences, which are huge right now, you're already playing the role of actually clearing the myths and misconception.
Right.
Another radio station will be the same. Another community health worker down in the community, we are training 60,000 of them. We'll be talking to their neighbors, telling them, by the way, this is a reality. So it's a continuous process, and you guys are playing your role, and we are playing our role, but we need to accelerate it because time waits for no man.
True.
Right, that's absolutely
Dr.
true.
As we conclude this conversation with you, the headline in today's Standard talks about doctors being afraid for Kenya. And it paints a picture of where the medical professionals working at the Mbagathi Isolation Center are saying how ill-prepared they were to deal with the first case and how they have been trying, to catch up with this. Now, let's look at countrywide, both private and public medical centers. Are we ready? Can we handle this? Are we talking about, when you talk about 50,000 people needing to be isolated and many more, 500 needing ICU centers, are we ready to handle this?
I would separate the two questions. I'll say, are we ready to handle this? No, we are not. Okay. Can we do it? Yes, we can. And those are two different philosophies. Let me explain. Are we ready to do this? Nobody has been ready to deal with corona. As Tyson said, you think you're ready until you get punched in the face.
Yeah.
So, and that's what the doctors find. That you have done a drill in the hospital. Everyone is aware, but you see, corona has no face. You see, you can't see it coming. So then you're sitting in your patient, you're seeing people with cough, with stomach pain, and then this person comes and you're like, this could be corona. And suddenly you're like, oh God, what did we learn? What were we taught? What are the steps? Who do I call? So this is what happens. And even now, even after we're training doctors, we're training nurses, training everyone, when the case appears, you saw a case where a patient appears and everyone took off.
Yes.
So the drill is different from reality. And therefore, that is why we are saying you will not be ready. You will only be ready from practice. And that is why you find that we are, the Ministry of Health is started off with the institutions that are already trained for infectious disease control. Because they have done these drills for Ebola, for yellow fever, for all these things. But in a normal outpatient somewhere in Kajiado, it is going to be very, very difficult. So we are not ready. And also remember that every time you think you're ready for Ebola, you are 10 steps behind where you think you are. Now, when we now get into the question of can we handle this? We can handle this. The only way we can handle this is for it to be, as you're saying, this whole thing about making sure that people have the information that they can use. And that is really critically important, which means that the corona fight is not a government fight. And I think even our Minister of Health and the government must realize it is not a government fight. It is a whole of society fight.
Yeah.
And the moment we shifted from being a government fight to a whole of society fight, to people owning it, to people realizing this is our fight. I was being sent photos from Busia. I asked somebody, a friend of mine there said, oh, people are putting water and soap outside their homes. They said, send me photos. They sent me photos from 9 homes where there is soap and water outside their house. In some of them, there's even a handwritten poster. Now, that's community ownership. That is not government going to put those hand washing centers there. This is where we need to reach, that people realize this is our fight. It's about me. It's about my family. It's about me taking measures in my own hand. That's where we need to reach. Then we can say, yes, we can handle this. But if we don't and we see it as a government fight and we wait for the government to make announcements and we wait for the government to save us, no, we will not be ready for it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kithenji Gitahi, Global CEO, Amref Health Africa. We'll be speaking with you throughout this season. You've told us 5 months. So in those 5 months, expect a call from us every morning.
You have my number.
Thanks so much, Dr.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Cheers.
Fantastic show. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Now, we expect that at least a few people have started to believe that this is real, right? And we still want to hear, if you think that this is not real, why is it that you think that this is not real? I mean, what more do you want to hear? What do you want to see? Do you want to be taken to the Mbagathi isolation facility and then you're shown, here is a person? What exactly is it that we need? Because when people are living like there's nothing happening, when people keep using the excuse or the explanation that I need to eat, so therefore I must do this. Yes, you can leave the house, you can go, but you must not have physical contact with somebody else if that's not what your job entails. Why is it that we are not following some of these basic protocols and using everything else as an excuse? Because I call it everything else is an excuse. You have to leave your house. Yes. Must you go and be less than a meter close to one another? No, you must not. It's 9:15. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. 0719 012 600.
Spice FM.
All right.
Nyeri.
Have problems in Islay this morning, and some roads impassable. First Islay Avenue at Jana Villas, there's a problem there that makes it going towards Jogger Road absolutely impassable because of an open sewer on the road. Now, what this has done is that it has affected traffic on Jogger Road now entering into the CBD. Mwiki and Feather Roads have been suspended. Nobody is able to move on those roads this morning because they're still as bad as they were 3 months ago, even with the supposed intervention. So people are not moving there either. You need to find an alternative. If you can find one, it would be good to do that now. So it's affecting traffic in those areas. Apart from that, everything seems to be moving very well. Some places not moving at all in the sense that there are no vehicles on the road. Spice of MKE, in case you see something else that we should know about and alert everyone else about, do let us know or give us a call 0719 012 600.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 13 minutes to 9. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Don't spread panic. Spread information. Let's go back to the phone line, 0719 012 600. Enoch in Kiambu, good morning.
Good morning to you, Eric.
Good morning, Enoch.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Situation Room. What do you have to say?
Eric,
yes.
I think the biggest problem where we have in Kenya is mistrust of the government. And anything the government touches, whether it's you, Eric, and uses you to pass, to communicate, you will still get the same bash. So I don't think whether... I think Kenyans, we have been used to lies all along, which I think is... We treat everything under suspicion. Whether you talk to... In fact, I've talked to quite a number of people and they'll tell you, people are dying. They are dying in terms of hundreds. But we are only being told they are 11, 10. We are told they are 10, they are 20. But that's not the truth.
So even the 100 is still a lie.
Sorry?
So they think that even the 100 cases is a lie. We have many more cases and many more deaths.
Yes.
Good lad.
So I think what we can do, the governments need to change its approach. We need to be honest for once. From the way we do our things, I think we have been socialized in a very different way from other societies, from another part of the world.
Yeah.
We are used to, we treat our politicians as liars. And I think they also lie to us. And
so we need to change our approach. Enoch, thank you very much for calling. Robert in Nakuru, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Robert.
Okay. I'm actually a new caller.
Yes, Robert. Karibu sana.
Karibu sana.
Thank you. So, I have a different view that this person actually were not coached if they even make mistakes just on the course of the interview. I'm just trying to imagine a young man for the first time being interviewed
on TV.
And a TV, that's quite overwhelming.
Yeah.
You are likely to make some mistakes in some ways, not because you wanted, but because of you're overwhelmed. Sometimes there are some reasons that can cause that. So it's not that difficult. The other thing is that those guys who are propagating false propagandas, I believe that there are underlying issues, as you said earlier, that somebody may be having his own issues, but he'll come and replicate them on other people. We have seen that in the past, actually, where a teacher would come in having quarreled with her wife at night, but when it's likely to come and bring it in class, and the class will be in a very bad status. So the underlying issues of us.
It's other things in society. Robert, asante sana for calling. Thank you. Mukoya in Thika, good morning.
Good morning to...
Thank you very much for calling in.
Thank you very much, busara zenyu zinaelimisha kweli.
Asante.
What I have to say is that wananchi are the change, not the government.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is no blame games. We shouldn't be blaming each other. The other thing is that fear might make you lack words to say or just say something that is not right. Fear. So we shouldn't blame Brenda or the government or on any issue. But fear, I can say, even myself, I have witnessed. You know English, but your English will not come out.
It disappears.
Swahili, yes, it disappears because of public. They were the live.
Yes.
Broadcasting. So that fear of first time being broadcast live and seeing new faces. So fear.
Thank you. Good point. Ochola in Mombasa, good morning.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, I want to contribute.
Go ahead,
Karibu sana.
Yes, I want to echo the former caller who said that the government, at least they should change their style of reporting the issue.
Mm-hmm.
It is real that Corona is with us. But we Kenyans, we have a problem in the manner in which the whole thing is being reported. Remember, there are some kind of cases that are still very, very fresh in the Kenyan mind, the way issues are being reported over the media. You remember the case of when we had a crisis in Nairobi with the Al-Shabaab, Olelenku style.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of reporting is what is making Kenyans to be a bit not be so much sure what's coming from the government side, because every now and then we see the cabinet secretary for health is coming just in the manner in which Olelenku used to come out reporting, and then at the end of it all, it was all false.
How would you then be able to tell, if I may ask,
Yes.
if what the government is saying is true? What would be that one thing that you would hear then know that they're
this
speaking
time
the
you
truth?
feel-
This time they're speaking the truth.
Okay, from what the government is saying, to me it is very, very much true, because we are seeing the whole thing affecting the whole world.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not just in our country.
So if it was not around the whole world, you would say it's something that was just manufactured in Kenya.
If it was not something that is affecting the whole world, then we could have said that this because in the manner in which it's being reported to us. So to me, I think the government should change the style. Let them at least change the style in which they're reporting this crisis that we are in.
If you were to change the style, Ochola, how would it change?
Anyway, that one I think we should leave to the professionals or the specialists in reporting.
No,
issues.
you're a professional in receiving issues and consuming information, and you're the one who has a problem with the way the information is being relayed to you. So I'm asking, how would you like information relayed to you?
Okay, I would like it to be relayed to me in form of a way that it's okay. Let me not preempt what I want to say, but I can advise the government that they can borrow a leaf from, let's say, in the countries that have already been affected, like China. How are they doing it there?
Okay.
Yes, how are they doing it there?
Ochola, thank you very much for calling. Have a good day in Mombasa.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Coming back to Nairobi. Otieno, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I've got three issues to put across. Number one.
Yes.
Okay, I've been quarantined for the last 19 days, and from today I will be out.
Mm-hmm.
Where are
wearing
you?
some mask. But the big issue here is social distancing. We are being told that greeting each other is bad because you might contact it, then you touch your mouth, your nose, or your eyes. The doctors or the researchers or the so-called professionals are not telling us that if you contact it, you touch your mouth, you swallow the saliva, will that disease start from your stomach, or the gastric juice will attack the virus? That thing has never entered into my mind and those people who have been asking asking the same issues, because unfortunately I don't have doctors around who I will ask the same question.
All right.
And also the eyes.
We will ask that question to our resident doctor, Dr. Masiko. She'll be joining us at about 9:15.
I would appreciate on that.
Sawa.
Number two, number two, I'm talking about the communication part of it, whereby that lady who talked, I forgot her name, who was saying that
Francesca,
who was introduced as the first COVID.
Brenda.
The Brenda lady.
Yes.
There was a lot, because I watched it over the TV, and there was a lot of inconsistency on her, whereby when you start your statement by, I am a patriotic Kenyan, I just
what is inconsistent about
that?
that?
This lady was just talking on behalf of government. She was not talking her mind.
Why? What is inconsistent, Otieno, about somebody saying I'm a patriotic Kenyan?
Do you think she was fed what you're saying essentially?
Are you saying she's not patriotic?
You're saying that she was given something, or she was given a script to follow.
Go ahead.
Of course, that's my point. That's there was a well thought script whereby she was given to follow. She start a sentence with this, she ends with this, with the hard eyes facing the camera, and you will read that, all of that. And finally, sir.
Number 3, yes.
Finally, that's the final thing. You also realize that on the issue of, apart from the communication and all this, there's this thing which we are being told to sit at home. And I've realized those people who are telling us are those who are on a pay slip in one company or in the government. That's what I've realized. And this script we are being fed by those people who are on a paid job, an end-month paid job.
Bro, can I ask you something, please? I hear you clearly. Do you have any evidence to support the things you're saying?
Which one in particular?
This last bit about people are being paid, script being given.
Okay, with that I can produce evidence just right now.
Okay.
You will listen that when people are saying that you see
that isn't evidence. Before you even go on, let me just cut you short. That isn't evidence. That's what you call hearsay.
Oh, okay.
Or reported speech.
Yes, this comes from
basically what Otieno is saying. The CS and the PS and the chief medical officer, these are on salary. They're paid.
They are on salary. That's my point.
So
that's a fact.
So they'll not feel the pinch. Basically, that's your point. They'll not feel the pinch of
so
somebody
those people who are not on salary feel the pinch. That's the point. That's not a hearsay. That's a fact.
I see.
Okay.
I see.
Good point.
No, your point is a valid one. Thank you.
Thank you, Otieno. Coming to the top of the hour, CT Muga. Today's proverb.
Advice is a stranger. If welcomed, he stays for the night. If not, he leaves the same day.
Advice is a stranger.
A Malagasy proverb. This one is straightforward.
Well, coming up to the top of the hour, 0719012600. We still want to hear from you. We are hearing a lot of mistrust, public mistrust on the information that's coming from the government, despite CS Mutahi Kagwe coming out and saying, fellow Kenyans, please listen to me. Just listen. I am not lying to you. Well, let's take a look at traffic, and then the conversation continues. It's 9 o'clock.
Not much of a change when we look around the city. Most roads open now, except for where we saw there were a few blocks here and there coming off of Jogo Road and getting into the CBD. It's slight and should open up in a bit. Apart from that, we should be fine through most parts of the city. We're going to see a lot of movement later on in the day, and we'll let you know what that is. But for now, unless you see something we should know about, you will have no problem plying the routes in the city today. Spice FM KE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist.
He told us, listen, prepare for the long haul, look at China, look at Italy, look at the other countries that have had these issues, look at South Korea, it took them at least 4 months to start addressing this. China is just right now coming out of it, and they're still looking at it and thinking, we don't want to open. We don't want to reduce the restrictions, because if we reduce the restrictions, this thing might come back.
Yep.
We still don't know much about this particular virus. So think of it as 5 months out. Start preparing yourself for what you need to do, but do as much as you can now, because the most that we can do now will help us not be in 5 months situation.
It's true. I mean, here we are, and the thing about this is that because so little is known when we look at epidemiology, when you look at a lot of the medical issues surrounding this virus, because so little is known. Now take that into consideration, and take into consideration the speed at which it is affecting people, the speed at which it's affecting governments, the speed at which it's affecting the world. And we're kind of scrambling, right? This thing is going, and the world is basically running after it and kind of saying, slow down. Let's get to know you a little bit more so that we know how to handle you. But it's not slowing down for anybody. And it's saying, I'm moving here. You guys got to catch up. Now, taking all of that into consideration, then it's absolutely necessary that we be ready to deal with this thing that we know so little about, that is ravaging the world. Okay? Now, it pains me as I hear it this morning to think that some people might think that this is actually not true. That this is a made-up thing.
Actually,
when we see people dying,
it shouldn't surprise you. Not really.
It doesn't surprise me. I think
you're just pained.
People have conspiracy year in, year out, but it pains me to see that the deaths that we've seen and the way in which is affecting the world, especially for something that is affecting nations, even the strongest of nations, are at their knees now. Okay. Not to even talk about those who already were on their knees before something like this came about. To think that there are people who would want to put it out there that this is conspiracy and that it actually is not true. And I think we need to try in terms of, because those of us who are in the business of communication then understand that it is necessary that some of these messages ring clear.
Start by asking yourself.
This thing is here. It's not a joke. It is here. And oftentimes we say, okay, if it's so big, then what can we do? Nobody's asking you to solve this thing. Nobody's asking you to create a makeshift lab in your kitchen. But there are certain things you can do.
But why?
And that's all that we're being asked.
Why do you think that there is such a push for center stage with all these myths and misconceptions? Because
it's an escape route.
Everybody's trying to create their own story and to make theirs.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Why do you think, for instance, people are more likely to believe something completely crazy as opposed to something that is sane and measured? Why?
Because the truth, in most times, for a lot of people, is not something that's palatable. In this case, nobody wants to hear that something is going to come and ravage your health, at the same time your economy, and at the same time change the way in which you've been able to do things for the last however long. But that's the thing. And here you are presented with something that is going to do just that. And the likelihood, the natural inclination for people is to come up with, something like, okay, well, this definitely can't be true. It's the natural inclination. You don't want to believe the truth.
That because I've started a sentence with, I'm a patriotic Kenyan.
That means this one has
been coached. Looking at Brian and talking to the president saying, I was very happy when your government took me to hospital. You're thinking,
umepanga,
umepanga.
How much just statement of my tax money? Yes.
So even if he has been given anything, are you saying that he's lying?
Remember the phrase of crying wolf? A gentleman called Aesop had some fables. And Aesop, I think, was a Greek. And what came out was do not cry wolf. But the story was a simple one. Every time somebody went out to look after sheep, this was the story. To get attention or to play truant, they'd say, wolf, people would rush to his rescue. Every time we do this, people would rush to his rescue. After a while, the wolf actually did come. And he shouted. No one bothered.
Nobody came.
By that time, people had already said,
they were fed up. This guy's always pulling a prank. Now, we talked about the underbelly, essentially consequences of certain things that people do. Now, they've come home to roost.
This is the government.
Yes.
Crying wolf all the
They're
time.
the ones coming to tell you,
Yes,
we need you guys to actually...
saying all
listen to
these
us.
things, all this stadium, leading, water, progress, development. Now,
Road, school.
Then you say coronavirus. Said, which one?
Lie.
People are dying. They've been
Nah,
dying
lie.
before you
Nah,
came
lie.
all this. Yeah, but these two had coronavirus. Which one? These ones. Too healthy. They couldn't have had coronavirus. Now, that is a price that is being paid, but let's go beyond it.
Before we go that, can I take this call?
Take the call.
Dennis calling in from Nyeri. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And CD, Eric, how are you?
We are
fine,
very
thank
well,
you.
thank you. And how are you, sir?
I'm also good.
Lovely.
Yeah, I just wanted to contribute to today's topic.
Yep.
And there are two things I would like to talk about. The coronavirus, yes, it's here with us. We've seen it in TV and media. People are dying. But I would like to echo something that lady from Mombasa said. Nimeishi ghetto kwa muda mrefu, and honestly, vitu inaitwa kaa kifo. It's a normal thing every day. People get sick. There are muggings, and every day tunazikana. So mambo ya kusema kaa ni kifo, hiyo ni kitu cha kawaida. Tumezoea ndio. Hata sasa hivi tunaenda kuzika mtoto wa jirani wangu.
Poleni.
So maji hatuna. When they tell us tunawe mikono na we observe the social distance, it is a little bit tricky because maji hakuna.
Dennis, I'm folding my sleeves when I hear you say this. Dennis,
hakuna, tuko wengi. Yes.
Ulioga mara ya mwisho lini?
So mimi nimepata kibarua nje kidogo. Lakini I normally go to see my friends jioni.
Right.
Kuna duka ninauza ndio.
Right.
Yes, I took a bath this morning.
So
but,
everybody who says maji hakuna, are they drinking water? Are they cooking?
Can they access water?
Are they accessing water?
Yes, they can. But imagine not chafu.
So help us understand this water that they would prefer to access. How different is it from the water that they actually access? Because we're talking about two different waters here, clearly.
The water that we do get ni yenye tunanunua kwa mitungi na inauzwa kote. Yes. So sometimes we don't know the source of imetoka wapi, but hiyo hayo ndio maji tumekuwa tukitumia. Jambo lingine la pili about the cyberbullying. Having grown up in the ghetto, that's where the real bullying is. We've get used to being bullied and bullying others. But I don't support bullying. When it comes to social media, there's one thing that I've come to realize. Internet doesn't forget. And for the girl, she decided to go public. And right now, people are working from home. Internet is cheap. It is easier. Hata ukiona watu wanakuwa na taswishi with what tumezoea kudanganywa mara mingi, so it has become normal.
It becomes your normal. Dennis, we're also losing you a bit. So let me just go to Mombasa. Tony, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Tony.
Yeah, we really like this conversation. I've been following in from what the head of AMREF said. And we need the right information from government. We don't need a reporting kind of thing. These are the number of cases. We know very well that the masses have not been tested, and that's a critical issue. Dealing with the basics, even before we go to the advanced stages, looking at it from an A to Z perspective. You know, people are talking of being equipped with ventilators when we reach our peak, probably at the end of April. We are not guinea pigs. They should learn from what Italy and countries like the States are facing. Now, people are talking of the second wave. How prepared are we as a country? The counties seem to be trying to play their role, but it's all being coordinated from the national government. I think as Kenyans, what you're saying is you're demanding for the right kind of information so that we can know how to, you know, lead our lives for the next 5, 6, 8 months. The leaders have been very quiet. We need people like the DP to be show how presidential it can be, receiving masks and being on the forefront on this fight.
Oh, sorry, did you say the VP?
Exactly.
The DP.
The DP? Oh, right, okay.
Yes. Well, I know there's different numbers of the government doing different things, but
so you want to see the politicians out there more?
We want to see them on the forefront of this. We've seen some governors really come out, like our governor in Mombasa is really doing a good job. But we need the people up there who are making noise on the BBIs and the handshakes and doing all the other things also. Right out here with us and reassuring Kenyans that they are doing enough to make us survive. You know, we've talked of rent. The president issued directives on the taxes, which have been cut. But if this thing is going to last for another 5, 6 months, people are living hand to mouth. The people down there, it's.
Thank you, Tony.
We need to be really reassured to be able to combat this COVID-19.
We hear you, Tony. Thank you very much, Paul. Good morning.
Morning to you.
Where are you calling from this morning, Paul?
I'm calling from Mombasa.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. Now, concerning the issue of the distrust, or rather, I think what you are trying to put across about Kenyans not being convinced about the COVID-19.
Yeah.
I think in my opinion, most Kenyans are actually convinced that the COVID-19 is here with us. Maybe the issue in this case is about what actually transpired when the presser was called upon concerning the 2 healed patients.
Yeah.
You know, the government, the trust in government is something that takes some time. So I think as Kenyans, we are used to the fact that we have been we are told something like this today, but at the end of the day, you realize that whatever that you've been assured by the government is actually not the case.
It's hot air.
And I can give an example because I remember sometime, I think it was last week when the panel, the morning show panel, you were discussing about the number of beds that are available for ICU.
Yeah.
In case the situation goes out of hand. Yeah. And I remember that CT, for example, said that Dr. Mwangangi had stated that we are ready, we have this number of beds, but clearly, as per his word, we were not ready as a country. The number of beds that were being stated as being ready were not. And I think that's where we are coming from, and most of the Kenyans are coming from when they now get to hear of these patients who have recovered, and yet there are some inconsistencies here and there. And I think that's where now they feel that maybe it's what we are used to from the government. Maybe the government is not really telling us what is happening. So, in my opinion, it's not about Kenyans not believing that COVID is here with us. It's about what the culture of Kenyans.
The government's track record.
Yes, the government.
Thank you, Paul. Ben in Kisumu, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Ben.
Yeah, so I've been listening to a couple of callers there.
Mm-hmm.
And allow me to disabuse the panel there. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a general, direction that you feel Kenya should take in this sense. I've seen like a couple of people calling about the distrust by the public on how the government is handling these cases. But it's like the panel is trying to disagree with every thinking that the members are giving. But you see, these are comments coming from where we live down here.
Yep.
You know, they are not just made up. I'm not sitting in my house and coming up with a conspiracy.
Yep.
And then saying it up there. So I feel like as media people, we should also listen and, not to take it as truth, but also debate it. Like, why do you think this is coming from down there? Not just bashing somebody off like, oh, that's like a conspiracy. Do you have evidence to
Are
this?
you saying
and
that we've been bashing instead of asking?
I think City bashed caller there was talking about these people who are calling for people to be home, being on a salary, and then he wanted like an evidence, which he said, okay, they're paid up. He even helped him by saying, the CSL is paid.
Yep.
He has a salary at the end of the month, right?
And what we were doing there, Ben, was we were asking, wanted to understand exactly what he meant.
Yeah, but I think you get my drift. And then number two, for me, I'd say like my biggest source of information would be like other media, maybe like other sources. Like on the numbers, I look at John Hopkins. And then the reason why I'm looking at John Hopkins, and maybe not internally, is that even the WHO executive himself, at some point, he said, the numbers coming from Africa cannot be trusted because the testing there is not robust. Right? And I feel like these are the things we're talking about. Why is our testing not robust? I mean, the CEO of Amref talked there. He was saying how ready we are, how true the tests are, and everything else. We should now counter that now by addressing what it is that the WHO executive meant. And is our testing fast as we speak, or we're just giving out numbers for the sake of it? And then if you go to sites like John Hopkins, you might find that numbers are not adding up with whatever the ministry is giving out. Okay?
So is John Hopkins giving different numbers?
No, I'm just saying, like, if you tie the whole narrative, what the WHO executive said, and then the numbers that we're giving, they say they're not trusting them because the testing is not robust.
Yeah.
I'll get dressed.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Asante sana. You have a good day in Kisumu.
Okay, you too.
All right. Well, this is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Keep the calls coming in and also your comments on our social media platforms, Spice FM KE on Facebook, at Spice FM KE on Twitter, Spice FM KE on Instagram, and we're also live streaming on YouTube, Spice FM KE. You can post your questions there or comments. And also, if you'd like to have any issue that you'd like addressed by Dr. Mercy Korir, she'll be joining us on the line shortly, 0719-012-600. It's now 18 minutes after 9. Let's take a look at the weather.
Mostly cloudy in Nairobi at 19 degrees. Chance of showers quite high in the afternoon with highs of 26 and lows of 16. In Nakuru, it is partly cloudy at 19 degrees, highs of 28 and lows of 13. At 19 degrees in Nyeri, we will have showers in the afternoon with highs of 24 and lows of 14. It's mostly sunny in Eldoret at 17 degrees, highs of 26 and lows of 16. Kisumu today is mostly sunny at 22 degrees. We'll have highs of 30 and lows of 19. 30 degrees and quite warm in Malindi, and partly cloudy conditions will cool it down in the afternoon with some showers. Highs of 32 and lows of 27. 29 degrees in Mombasa and mostly cloudy as well. Thunderstorms expected in the afternoon with highs of 32 and lows of 27. It's 27 degrees and mostly cloudy in Dar es Salaam. Showers expected in the afternoon with highs of 33 and lows of 24. 24 degrees is what it is in Kampala right now. Showers expected in the afternoon then with highs of 27 and lows of 21. In Johannesburg at 11 degrees, it's mostly sunny. Highs of 17 and lows of 11. Wrap it up in Lagos at 27 degrees where it's mostly sunny, highs of 34 and lows of 26.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
As I directed earlier this week, all border riders and their passengers, with only one, must wear protective masks. I further direct that all tuk-tuk drivers, all
So now
matatu
the
drivers
people are not listening, heeding to the government's directive on social distancing and all. Are they going to wear masks?
Well, this, interestingly enough, they could, because this is something that they actually see and can touch and would be a physical barrier to the disease.
They have always
I
seen
don't
and touched
understand.
water.
But now, in this case, what do you want? People are not. Look, we saw it
I
in the
see
headlines.
what's gonna come up.
No social distance, but
We
here's
can't
something
afford
that you
these
can
masks.
actually put on your face, physical, tangible barrier that will stop you from getting this disease. That one, they'll look for it.
You'll hear. I'm
They
predicting
said
people will
stand
say.
there. They refuse to stand there.
People will say,
now they say,
we
okay,
don't
wear a
have
mask,
these
you'll
masks.
be okay.
Yeah, where are the masks?
They said they'll be. Mutahi also begged and said, CS Mutahi also begged and said, whoever is producing them should make them very cheap so that everybody can have access to them.
Yeah.
So you also don't believe the government?
I can't afford these masks. We're joined now by Dr. Mercy Korir on the line. Dr. Ari, good morning.
Good morning, people. How are you?
Good morning, Dr. Ari.
We're well.
Yeah, this mask debate finally caught up with us.
Yes. Yes.
And, well, I think people will wear masks. And this is based on just my assumption. People usually want something tangible. Like when people ask you, so what's the cure for this coronavirus? Or even when you make a diagnosis to somebody, usually the next question is, sasa daktari nifanye nini, nikunywe nini, you know? So here, if you saw people, you wear a mask, it will reduce your chances of contracting. I think, my own assumption, people might find that easier to adopt and wear because it's something they can see and it makes sense. At least they can see the reasoning behind it. Now, the one of physical distancing is a bit difficult because we are not cultured to not be present or near people. So that one was going to take a bit of time to get into people's DNA that, you know, physical distancing is actually beneficial in this case.
You know, I see, yes, people are going to wear masks, but it will not come easy. Same way we are seeing people are washing hands, people who have access to water have that, but there are very many people who are saying, hatuna maji. It's the same thing we're going to have. People will be saying, I don't have a mask. And yet, this is a person who is boarding a matatu.
But
and the directive is mainly targeting those who are using public transport. Wear a mask if you're using public transport.
The CS in the same breath said they'll distribute what they have to the public through the chairman of Boda Bodas and the chairman of Matatus so that they can give their passengers. So, yeah, it's a good start if they are going to distribute to the public for free. It will be a good start. So for me, my worry and my concern with the masks is if people put their guard down, bring their guard a little bit down, because now they think that now that they have the mask, they are okay. Because again, you remember, you're not supposed to touch the outside part of your mask. So, but I've seen the few people who've been wearing masks, somebody wears one mask the whole day. They're not conscious in washing their hands or sanitizing because they have a mask.
Yep.
Then they'll touch outside, and then they may contaminate themselves at the end of the day. So, if we do not know how to use the masks correctly, then we're actually not doing much justice to the public. So, it's a catch-22 situation, but for me, it looks like it's just a desperate attempt, like let's throw in everything, something will work. And maybe this mask will reduce the chances of people by so much percentage. We don't know. I was seeing one of the people in the UK, it wasn't really a study, but somebody just commented that they estimate that now, initially before physical distancing, chances of you meeting people was about meeting 2.6 people, let's say 3 people. But now that has gone down to the chance of you, now physical distancing, curfews, lockdowns, your chances of meeting people or interacting with people is one person in a day. So these measures actually have more impact in reducing and limiting transmission, because the people you're likely to meet are fewer. So if you had that, then the mask would not be as important a measure as what we are doing
As
now.
everything else. I've got a question. Somebody is calling in from Thika. This is Mudhoni. Mudhoni, good morning.
Good morning to you, good people. How are you?
We're
Good,
fine,
thank you,
Good person, we
Mudhoni.
are very well.
I really wanted to ask Doctor to whether the government can actually get EPZ to produce masks in large quantities and distribute them for free to everybody, especially to people in lower income areas. Because some of us need to get back to work, to be honest. As for putting our guards down when you're wearing the mask, everybody needs to be aware that you still need to be careful even when you're wearing the mask. But personally, I think we need to get back to work. Some of us need our salaries, you know, as in, and plus there's so much uncertainty. How many months are we going to be on lockdown? You know, waiting to see whether there's going to be like a big number of people, I don't know, dropping dead or something. Yeah.
Thank you, Mudhoni. Daktari, the government has addressed this issue of EPZs and other manufacturers of this material.
Yes, they did. They said EPZ will manufacture not just masks, but also the personal protective equipment for medics, for the healthcare workers. For the masks, they opened it up literally for everyone to be able to produce masks, so that the tailors are able to make something that will cover people's faces with whatever fabric that they have. Those that can manufacture the standard medical masks can. So they literally open it up to everyone and anyone. Even at home, if you have a machine, you can make a mask for yourself and your family. So they are not limiting the number of people who can make masks. And I think this was to make sure there is a lot in the market, so that people do not sell at an exorbitant price. So we urged actually anyone who will be producing masks to sell them at a reasonable price to people. So it's open. It's a chance, hopefully not everyone can produce, so that somebody who would be jobless now can have something to do. So for Mudhoni, I don't have a answer on when this will end or what will happen, because it is a global crisis. It is not unique to Kenya, and until every country has a hold or a control of the pandemic, we are in this for the long haul. So we're still here.
Another question coming in from Okech in Kisumu. Good morning, Okech.
Oh, good morning to you. How are you?
We're fine, thank you.
Fine, thank you.
Okay,
Okay, good morning.
Good morning to you. So I had this question. How does a person actually recover? Because you see, many times, even in my small space of quarantine, and I think this will come in the near future when people will be asked to take this medication or these precautions at home. Yeah. So even in that my small space, let's say a room, you see, I leave the droplets everywhere. These droplets which contain the virus, the infection, including on my bed when I sleep in the night. So I see a situation whereby I continuously inhale the very virus-contained droplets, yeah? So even if I was actually supposed to recover, I re-inhale it again. So I was wondering how this actually happens, how a person actually recovers in this one place, one confinement
In the
or
isolation.
quarantine. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Remember, we have been giving a raft of measures and proposals, and one of them was the constant disinfection and cleanliness, so that even if you leave droplets or you contaminate a surface, you have come and cleaned it up every so often, regular, with bleach, with a mix of bleach and water. And this we've said 1 part bleach, 6 parts water, because that's now the best combination to kill the virus on these surfaces, so that your surfaces are as clean as possible. For linen, for example, bed linen, the ones on the seats, they have to be also cleaned and changed every day, and you dry them out in the sun. Luckily here in Africa, we have plenty of sun, we have plenty of air. All of us, or rather most of us, especially if you're up country, you'll dry your clothes out in the open. They'll be chommed by the sun. They'll be aerated. So these are some of the things that you need to do. Not just stay and say, now I've washed my hands, and then you're not disinfecting, or I've worn a mask, so you're not washing your hands. All of these things have to be done together for the cumulative benefit of reducing transmission. Remember here, we stopped saying we are stopping transmission. We want to reduce and contain to whatever that we have now, so that it doesn't escalate. So even if it's a small room, clean as many surfaces as possible, especially the surfaces that are touched quite often with bleach, which is a good disinfectant. Wash hands at all times, change your linen every day, aerate them, dry them out in the sun.
Thank you, Dr. Let's take a short break, take a look at traffic, and then we'll take more questions for you. 0719-012-600 is the number to call. That's 0719-012-600. And also, you can post the questions on social media, Spice FM KE on Facebook, Spice FM KE on Twitter, as well as Spice FM KE on Instagram. Good morning, 26 minutes to 10.
Looks like this is what we'll see for most of the day, whereby most of the roads are open. We have no problems with any traffic now. Where we did have a few trouble spots, those have opened already. And unless something major happens or anything that would need people's attention, then you can let us know. But for now, wherever you look, traffic is behaving quite well, and it should remain that way for some time to come. Spice FM KE is how you can reach us on Twitter. You can reach us by phone on 0719-012-600.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Right. Kenya's biggest conversation. We're asking Dr. Mercy this morning. And one of the questions that we had earlier, before we go to the whole barrage of other stuff that's coming in, is somebody is already infected, Daktari, and they're talking then about mucus getting into the gastric juices that you might have, then can you then get a stomach or intestinal infection or something after that? That was a question.
Interesting one. It's a respiratory virus. It hasn't been shown to cause any GI infection, any gut infection. Though in few circumstances, especially in children, there are some that have reported diarrhea and vomiting. But I think the body will be able to clear that. These are just some of the constitutional symptoms, part of the spectrum of symptoms, but it would not be, it hasn't been shown to primarily cause a gut infection.
Okay.
Before we go into the others on social media, Ruben is calling in from Nakuru. Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning. How are you?
We're fine, thank you.
Okay, fine. I want to comment about the talk, the show. But as I proceed, I'm going to talk about this distrust that the government has between itself and the citizen. You know, anytime you are facing yourself, coronavirus itself, it's an enemy. But anytime you are facing yourself in a warfare with an enemy, you have to ask yourself three important things. Do you understand the enemy? Do you understand the terrain? And do you have the necessary weapons to fight this particular enemy? Now, let's go back to how us Africans used to manage this flu issues. Flu has been there with us for for time immemorial. However, we have to note the reason why this particular flu is dangerous, more or less the way I understand it, is that it takes you to that position whereby you stop breathing. And the way I know it, this is accumulation of mucus or the mucosa in the lungs. In our own traditional ways, the way our own grandmothers used to do, whenever you have difficulties in breathing, when you have the congestion of the chest, they will tell you, no, do not sit down. Do not sit down. Be active. When it becomes so difficult, they will go ahead and say, come, sit on this particular stool. They'll take those menthol rubs, whatever, Vicks, and Kaluma, Pelbam, whatever it is that you are calling them. They'll rub it on your chest. They'll rub it on your back. They'll continue to pat your back. They will take a blanket with whatever herbs they had. They put it in a basin full of hot water to help you breathe so that they remove the mucus out. Now, I'm looking and I'm asking yourself that we are not in the West. This is Africa, where if you go to the hospital, at one particular point you'll have somebody suffering from typhoid, malaria, flu, all diagnosed in one sitting. The doctor is telling you this person has typhoid, malaria, and flu all in one sitting. Not in a ventilator. The hospital does not have any ventilators, does not have any monitors, but this person will walk out of there.
So what are you asking yourself, Ruben?
What I'm asking myself is that the medical procedure, we are talking about the preventive part, which is washing the hands and everything. We know also there's the palliative part, where now it's a serious situation whereby now you have to go to the ICU. You can't breathe. But you're asking yourself, before now, the curative part, between now and then, before you go to the ICU, are we doing the right thing? Considering the the environment you are, the terrain you are with. How? We have to ask ourselves, a disease could be infectious, highly infectious, but does not mean it can also be highly lethal. Why am I saying that? Because it could be highly infectious.
Ruben, we hear you. Let's hear Dr. Mercy Koriro's response to this.
Well, I like some of the things that Ruben is talking about. Some of these measures that you can do at home, the rubs and the whatnot, these are okay for somebody who is not in the vulnerable groups that we have been talking about. Not for your elderly people, not for somebody with a pre-existing condition, and definitely not for somebody with difficulty in breathing. Somebody with mild symptoms can incorporate some of these things because they'll make you feel better. And the other thing that we are seeing, I know he said somebody should be active. From those who have managed it at home in the West, they're saying rest actually helps. When you're not active, probably going to the shamba and doing a whole lot of things, but when you're resting as much as possible, from their own personal experiences, they're saying it helps. But this is only for people with mild symptoms. A mild cough, fever that you are able to manage at home, because some of these things are what will probably happen in hospital, because remember, there is no specific medication, treatment, or cure for this disease, and there's no vaccine. But if somebody has difficulty in breathing, that is not somebody who should stay at home. Even if we do not have ventilators and all of these fancy things in hospitals, we have ways to manage this, because if somebody has difficulty in breathing, one of the main things that you need to do for them is put them on oxygen. And we have this. We have either the oxygen cylinders or what we call oxygen concentrators that filter oxygen in the air and are able to help somebody so that their bodies can get as much oxygen as possible. So there are two categories. Those that can manage at home, please do manage at home. Those that fall in the vulnerable groups and those with difficulty in breathing, those are not people who should stay at home.
Okay.
They should just seek care at the nearest hospital.
All right, Dr. Harry, another question, interestingly enough, directed at you, from the article that you wrote that we saw in today's Standard. Now, if the situation is so bad in one of the facilities, what kind of faith are you giving us in terms of the system?
Difficult one, because much as we are saying all of these things, we have to be honest. We have to speak candidly as a society. People have to make informed decisions and informed choices.
Perhaps for those who haven't seen the story, Doc, start by giving us just what is the story about?
Oh, okay. So it's basically about the Mbagathi, the primary isolation center that the government identified for quarantine and for isolation for the people who've been confirmed to have coronavirus. So the facility as it is has 20 staff, 6 doctors and 14 nurses. And in any one sitting, there are about 4 nurses and two doctors. 4 nurses and 1 doctor, or 3 nurses and 1 doctor, meaning that it is, first of all, understaffed. Because these are the same people, and last week, but one, people are complaining that they survive on Mbagathi staff time, where even sometimes the food they get is cold. But it's because they are understaffed and they do not have the personal protective equipment. So what happens is they time such that you give your medication, your food, and you do your observations, that is the temperature checks and whatnot, at the same time.
All at a
because
go.
You do not have it all at a go, because you do not have enough equipment to be doing these things separately. And if they had enough staff, then everyone would have gone to do their specific task. Somebody else should have gone to do observations, somebody else to give food, somebody else to give medication where need be. So there are those challenges. It's like we rushed into opening a facility without a plan on staffing it, without a plan on how to equip the staff who are there. There is a shortage of personal protective equipment in the country. We do not have any that is coming in, so staff have to learn to prioritize what to use where, so that you do not exhaust whatever you have, so that you can save it for the rest of your shift. So it's a lot of problems and points to just the unpreparedness at that place.
Coming to the question, then it's basically making us feel like, God, we're just gonna die. We're not ready.
Right, and then a question from someone totally different. Then in this case, how can we be sure then that medical staff are protected, especially since they are coming home and going back to the facility every day?
They are not protected. They are not protected, and even that leaving the hospital and going home should not be there. They should be in an identified facility, accommodation, a hotel, somewhere where they do not mix with the general public, so that they do not have to get onto the same matatu that we are getting onto, because they are at a high-risk place. So ideally, they should be in their own accommodation where they log in. When they go back, you log in with your temperature. When you leave in the morning, you log into your temperature. So there's constant monitoring of the state of this particular staff. So as it is, in terms of those basic preparedness for the healthcare workers, And for the people who are being admitted there, we are not doing what we should be doing. So yes, our medical professionals are exposed. We know a good number, okay, not a good number. I think now we have 4 who have been confirmed to have coronavirus. Some admitted in Bagasi, some in one in another private facility, a doctor. So they're at risk.
Yeah.
They're human like us. So we have a problem. So much as we are saying all of these things, we have to be truthful that our last line of defense is porous. So as Mwananchi, you need to keep to the measures that have been put in place because you do not want to fall sick because your last line of defense might not help you. Yes.
Since we're talking about lines of defense, our police force also mingle, or the nature of their job puts them in contact with Wananchi on a daily basis. Not the same scale as perhaps the hospitals, but it does.
Yes.
Should we have the same consideration for them?
Definitely, because they are a high-risk group. You see, when you're doing a planning for this, preparedness for this, you have to know who your high-risk group is, who your middle, and who's your low risk, so that you respond proportionately. So that for somebody who's sitting at home and who has been working at home, you don't go and give them all the gloves and all the masks. You get. You have to respond proportionately depending on your high risk. So here, your medical professionals are top of the tier. They are the most at high risk. So you start by making sure they are the best equipped, best trained, and everything. Because now those are the people who will help you train your next risk group of people. If it's the police officers, the people in hotel and hospitality services who are meeting people, journalists who will be interacting with people, so that they can help you also train those people, and then now you go to Mwananchi. So our response has not been very, in terms, if you're to do a forensic audit, we have not responded or acted or put in mitigation measures depending on our risk of vulnerability. We need to put our acts together, for lack of a better way to explain it. We need to put our acts together as a government and as Wananchi. But since in this case, the owners really rest on Wananchi first, then Wananchi has to adhere to all those measures that have been put in place, because you do not want to find yourself on the other side of the scale where things are worse.
Okay, the next question then, Dr. is that, okay, so I'm at home, working from home, my children are at home, and we've been advised to clean our surfaces with, 1 part bleach and 6 parts water. How often do I need to do this, since nobody's leaving the house and nobody's coming in?
So this depends on where you live, how neat your house is. So this we cannot prescribe it like you would prescribe medicine. So this one has to be, you have to make a decision according to your house. For example, somebody who lives in a dusty area would probably need to do this more times than somebody who lives in a place where it is not as dusty. So this one, somebody has to make that decision according to their household and according to, the situation in the home. Also depends on the children. There are some children who are messy. There are some who are neat. So it depends on you and your household. That's a decision that you make in your own household.
Okay. All right. Okay, so this is another one. What are some immunity building foods? I think there are quite a number of people who are stuck on this, trying to build up immunity. What are some immunity building foods?
Okay, allow me to put in a first disclaimer. This food should be incorporated into your diet.
Right.
So it's not that you now have been told this and this foods, and now you go on them alone. They have to be incorporated into your diet. And the easily accessible ones that anyone can get are garlic, and this you can have as part of your diet every day in cooking food and whatnot. Turmeric, I think we know it's more as curry powder. I remember Siti clarifying. So that one you can incorporate into your diet. Ginger, lemon, and they say lemon juice, you squeeze the lemon juice into water and then you drink that water. And then any citrus fruits, oranges, tangerines, all of those group of citrus fruits, and anything rich in vitamin C is good. But this should be incorporated into the diet as your daily routine, not a one-off, and you don't, binge eat them because now they are shown to improve immunity.
Okay. Then another question. I think we've seen this before, but I guess worth still answering. If you don't have access to sanitizer and you're on the move, what can you do?
I think if you're on the move, you don't have sanitizer. What you do is at your next point, look for the nearest running water and soap points where you can wash your hands. Remember, washing hands with running water and soap has been shown to be the best mechanism. Sanitizer just comes second. So if you're on the move, avoid touching your face, your mouth, your eyes, your nose as much as possible. When you get to your next point, wash your hands with running water and soap. You have to do according to your circumstances. Here, there is no one size fits all because people are different. People do different kind of things. So you have to make those decisions according to your situation and your circumstances as at that point. If you can get sanitizer in your next stop and there's no soap and water, obviously use sanitizer.
Right.
But you try as much as possible to maintain hygiene at every point possible.
There's a growing concern around the country that is, have we been having COVID-19 or coronavirus for a long time, even before March 13th or even before China discovered that we had it. People saying, looking at last year, there were very many people who were falling sick and getting serious coughs. Some people even passing away because of pneumonia-related illnesses. What would you say to that?
This is an answer we can only get if we do a forensic audit of all that data, all those reports. And probably the best time to do that is after this pandemic. But I'd like to quickly add that coronaviruses is a family of so many viruses that have been here with us for thousands of years. There's the coronavirus that causes common cold. We call them a flu, but it's just a cold, cough. It's usually mild. So this is still a coronavirus. There's a coronavirus that caused the SARS epidemic in 2002, 2003. There's the coronavirus that caused the Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome in Middle East. I think it was in 2009. So these are still coronaviruses. So coronaviruses have been here with us.
Right.
The only difference is that this SARS-CoV-2 or the novel coronavirus is new and was only officially identified on 31st of March when China started reporting a number of people suffering from an unknown pneumonia and people died. So that's now when the alert was raised and people looked at it. But I'm sure after this, because there's a lot of research, a lot of people looking into this, it will be a good point to look at by the scientists in Kenya and the researchers in Kenya to see if we had it way before, and if we did, was it a mild one or were people dying of something else? So this can only be done through a retrogressive study. Retrospective study, sorry. Retrospective study.
I like that first mention. Yeah, and I was going to ask you, this is a new one. How do we go about it?
No. Retrospective study.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so another question here is that we've seen reports of people then presenting with deep vein thrombosis as a result of them being holed up at home for long periods of time. Opening up to the fact that there could be other conditions that come about as a result of them having to stay home and not be as active. What are some things that you would ask people to watch out for that they could then avoid going to hospital then for other issues that would come about?
Well, the one of DVT is quite serious. I think staying at home doesn't mean you only sit and become inactive. People should try as much as possible to be active. And I've seen people coming up with exercise activities that they can do while still in the house, especially people who live in apartments where there's no space to even take a walk or to ride a bike. So people have come up with other exercises that you can do while still in the house, because you still need to be active. Remember, coronavirus is just here temporarily. It will come and go, but if you get DVT, then you have gotten yourself into a whole list of other problems.
Right.
So I think people should try as much as possible to be active. People should not shy away from seeking health services if they develop any of these other symptoms that are not necessarily related to coronavirus, but could be as a result of now all these attendant issues that we are seeing from coronavirus.
All right.
So DVT is because of inactivity. So people should be active. People should eat well also. The issue of balanced diet, because at the end of this restrictions of movement, we don't want to see people with obesity, because then that brings in risks of diabetes and hypertension. So people should still be active, because all these other problems that we've had, all these other risks that we have, are still here with us.
Dr. There's a growing concern here about the tests. We actually had the same conversation when we spoke with Dr. Githinji Gitahi of AMREF. And there's an article on the Wall Street Journal that talks about questions being raised about the accuracy of coronavirus tests, which are now worrying, with doctors saying that they're estimating that out of every 3 people who test negative, at least maybe one could be having a false negative. And the concern here is you get tested, it shows that you're negative, but you still have the virus, and therefore you're a risk to the community.
So I think it is good to give context to that particular report, because it was in reference to certain testing kits that were from a Chinese company. So it wasn't all testing kits. Remember, there are so many companies that have now come up with diagnostic kits that they are sharing with some of these formulas and processes have actually been shared out, so that as many companies as possible are able to also reproduce and make their own diagnostic kits.
Yeah.
So this particular one, and some European countries were affected, were from China, from a certain company, and they were returned. So for the Kenyan context here, I had a chat with the WHO country representative, and they said the ones we have, they validated them in 3 different laboratories because of all of these concerns. And the Kenyan kits were certified to be correct and accurate, because 3 different laboratories tested them, and they were okay, they were accurate according to that validation process.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Mercy Korir, for joining us today. We'll wish you a good weekend and hope to talk to you again on Monday.
Yes. Do have a good weekend also.
All right. Of course, before you go, you need to hear today's proverb.
Yes.
Advice is a stranger. If he's welcomed, he stays for the night. If he leaves, it's because you did not welcome him. The saying actually goes this way. Advise a stranger who, if welcome, stays the night. If not, he leaves the same day.
Straightforward, isn't it?
Yep, it is.
Thank you very much, Dr. Have a good weekend.
You too. Have a good one.
Thank you.
And we also wish you a great weekend. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. We'll be back on Monday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. CT Muga, say goodbye and Nduwako.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Yeah, and the conversation continues.
The conversation certainly must continue.
Remember, between now and 2 o'clock is music, and then 2 to 6 is Monique. Good morning.